What a night we got for you guys. News breaking all day. Great CrossFire setup for you guys. Very, very excited for tonight's show for multiple reasons. Like I said, usually, guys, remember, we did the show on Friday for a very long time. And Friday was a great time to do the show. News was breaking right up until we went live on Friday night. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the news, the media, the industry is now saying, no, holiday starts or weekends start Thursday night. So there's not a lot of news. Now everything's coming out on Thursday. This is phenomenal. A lot of things coming out. The PS5 Pro, a sketch has come out. Not a big shock on the sketch, but a big relief for a lot of people saying, was this going to be real? We're going to get into that. We have an outstanding panel. We've got more people joining as the time goes on. You guys will see that. Let me know that the audio is all right. Everybody, please, as well as we kind of get started, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button, if you will. Your name comes up in lights. Special thanks as well to the great Mash. Mash will be joining us hopefully later in the show. In the chat, Mash has been donating an unbelievable amount. I think last week, and shout out to also the great Detective Seeds, who's here tonight with us too. Seeds did an outstanding donation as well last week. But Mash, between Mash and Seeds, we had 60 new members last week donated. That's unbelievable. I can't say thank you enough to both of those guys. Please, again, right above that, look at that outstanding description right there. It gives you a little synopsis of what we're going to be discussing tonight. Is that join button? That's how you get your name in green in the chat. If you guys would consider joining the channel, be an unbelievable thank you from the Mooch. It means the most to me. Again, we have a large panel coming with us tonight. We have more people joining us as the hour goes on. So I'm going to make the intros kind of short and sweet here. I do want to say what's up to the great Detective Seeds. Seeds, you're a regular on the show, but because of your job and your Platinum Trophy channel and the amount of games you've got to play in the next 4 days, it's almost like you're a guest. You've been so busy. But Seeds, welcome back to the show, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Doing well, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, my real big boy job takes up quite a bit of time. So, but I'm starting to enter into my slow season a little bit, so I'm able to come on and hang out a little bit more and have fun. But yeah, I got review codes for Astrobot. Got another one coming tomorrow for Space Marine 2, so I'm going to be pretty busy with embargoes hitting next week and I think the week after. So, yeah, looking forward to it, man. Thanks for having me back.
Always, Seeds. You're always welcome, buddy. Also, you've become a celebrity of sorts on Twitter after you've done a few rounds on podcasts. Great to have you here tonight. Really interested to hear what you got to say. You guys know the Crap Gamer. He's back as well. Crap, literally, hopefully everything in the green room was to your satisfaction and your liking, my friend. I noticed.
Yeah. You know what? It's always like I got stuff going on like last minute, and it takes a little bit longer than expected. But yeah, I'm here. I was only like 3.5, 4 minutes late, so that's pretty good. That's like on time. Honestly, that's
perfectly set and on time, buddy. Outstanding to have you. I'm going to do just going to run through the introductions real quick. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of late breaking news. The great BRAP is here as well. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. You wouldn't know, BRAP. I almost had a card to you before you came in. It's been so long since you've been on CrossFire, and I wasn't sure if that was you.
Hey, I was here last week. For
it was a cameo.
Like 45 minutes. Maybe?
Yeah, maybe it was a long cameo. Yes.
Yeah, it was a long cameo. Hey, it's great to be back, Mooch.
It's great to have
you back. The weather worked out in your favor. So.
Listen, Italians, we can't make it rain, but we were definitely praying. A lot of praying going on over here, Brap. So it's great to have you here, especially tonight. You've been on fire on Twitter as well in the past 12 hours, Brap. So I can't wait to hear what you've got to say. The great Death Singer is here. You guys don't know this, but before the show started, Singer's in the chat with myself, and I believe it was Seeds, and we were going back and forth, and Seeds played a little prank on Singer, got him all riled up about 40-80 cards, 40-90 cards, and comparing them to the PS5 Pro. But the great Singer is here, and let me tell you something. If you thought he was tired, he's not. He's not. He's got a lot of energy tonight. The great Singer is with us. Singer, I can't wait to hear what you got to say. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, and I gotta take my victory lap, because previously on the couple of times I peed on you, I told you Concord isn't gonna do shit on PC.
Okay, PC.
And I am vindicated.
Okay.
I told you that is not the demographic, it is not for those gamers, and I was completely right. Thank you very much. I'll take my award.
Okay,
you guys start peeing on each other tonight. I'm gonna have to take off. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. That must be an England thing. I'm not sure. A Wales comment. And that's I'm not sure.
Here in the
US.
Yeah,
that's a Singer.
Being fair though, Death Singer, your entire argument was the characters aren't sexy enough. I'm sorry, bro, but
I'm right. And it's not free to play. And my other argument was free to play. And lo and behold, we're here.
Well, listen, great to have you here.
Microtransactions, man.
Speaking of that, hey, if I'm going to introduce somebody from Wales, I'm going to do it. Now, Wooly, in my apologies, I want to say it's not North London. You're from North England somewhere. It's not Wales. I know that for sure. Wooly, welcome back to the show, buddy. How you doing this evening?
Oh, mate, I'm glad to be here. Been a crazy day. I'm literally waiting for a taxi from where I work right now because I've stayed way over time, help just dealing with craziness across the network. But yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. I'm very impressed with these brief introductions, Mooch. Like, well done. You really are nailing it, bro.
We got a lot of work to do tonight, Willie. We got a lot of work to do. So I'm trying to. I definitely want to give each one of you guys your respected flowers because it's outstanding to have you guys all here tonight. You guys are the star of the show, not me. Speaking of that, last minute, he says to me, Mooch, if you got room, he says, I'd love to come on. I got to tell you something. It doesn't matter if I have room. It doesn't matter if I have room. The great Porter Rock says, I got to come on the show. That means he's fired up. You don't understand. This man works literally till like right now. So if he's willing to get out of work and then come on the show, this guy's got energy. He's got something to bring. P-Rock, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Hey, the truth is we're starting our Labor Day weekend, so I got off early. I'm like, you know what, man? Mooch always reaches out to me, and I'm always saying I can't do it for obviously work reasons.
Absolutely.
You know? But you know what? If I could, like I always say, if I could hop on, I'll be the first one here.
Well, listen, buddy, I'm glad you're
my
here.
promise.
Tonight's the night. You know? If you could make the show, tonight's the night, P-Rock. So great to have you here. Of course, the great Kami is back with us, guys. You guys know this. If you're not following him on Twitter, I don't know what you're doing. I really don't if you're gaming. This guy's got news coming out every hour on the hour. He's better than CNN. He's got all of the top. He's got it from all the industry top officials, all of the press, everything. So, Kami, great to have you back on the show. I know we had a little bit of a technical difficulty getting you in here. But listen, I got to be honest with you. I'm impressed with my engineer. Shout out to Jay the Matrix Gamer helping me get you in here on literally a 2 minutes notice. Kami, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good, man. How are you guys? Happy to be back. It's been a little while, but we got a lot to talk about this week, so excited to dive in.
Well, speaking about excited to talk, that's great crap. Speaking of absolutely being excited to be here tonight, the great BG is back with us. You guys know him as Broken Games. Listen, BG, great to have you. You guys also know him from Weapon Wheel Podcast, 5 p.m. Eastern, Sunday nights. BG, great to have you on tonight. You can see we have an all-star panel here, including yourself. A lot of big topics coming out tonight. How you doing, first of all?
I'm good. Thanks for the invite. It's been, finally been active out there.
Right.
Some stuff to talk about, some games, and some stuff to hate on. Always good when you got something to hate on.
Well, that is the nature of the business we're in, BJ. You know this as well as I do. We've been doing it a very long time. So, BJ, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the hot seat first and foremost here. I really want to hear what you got to say. I was going to start with things like PS5 Pro, things that were coming out, price points. We're going to get into all of that. We are going to talk about Concord. We are going to talk about Star Wars Outlaws. This is the thing I have to bring up with you first and foremost. Black Myth Wukong's delay on the Xbox to an exclusive deal, maybe an exclusive deal now. Some sources in air quotes are saying with Sony. And BG, before I do put you on the hot seat with the question here, just real quick for context for everybody, this is coming from Game Science and is quoted, "We are currently optimizing the Xbox Series XS version to meet our quality standards, so it won't release simultaneously with other platforms. We apologize for the delay and aim to minimize the wait for Xbox users. We will announce the release date as soon as it meets our quality standards." Microsoft has a statement that comes out on June 21st saying, and quote, "We're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on Xbox Series XS and are working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. We can't comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we remain focused on making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are at the center of that." So, BG, when it comes down to it, and I had a tweet, and I think it's almost at 100 likes. For me, that's a lot. I'm just going to say this much. Like, in all honesty, whenever Sony has an exclusive, when are they not pounding their chest and yelling from the top of a mountain and claiming it, and they're putting the exclusive tag, time, this and that, can only play here, get it on PS5 because you can't play it on another console? We don't see that. So if they are secretly behind the curtain money hatting, BG, my question is, this is just not like anything we've seen before. Where are you on this whole controversy that kind of broke this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see any reason game science would need to lie and make up like, hey, we're having optimization issues. And like you said, I don't know any reason PlayStation would be, lurking in the shadows,
Yeah.
Cutting deals with people, because they want to be hidden about it. I'm like, that's not the way they move. Everything they do when it comes to deals like that, they want you to know, yeah, we cut this deal, and what are you going to do about it?
Right.
It's so I just don't really know why they would go about it, with that angle. And also, I think it's inconsequential whether or not they cut the deal or not.
Agreed.
I mean, we see what's happening currently with Xbox. They already have, the smallest install base. Their fans are basically trained not to buy games at launch, because Game Pass conditions them that way. We saw this game sell, they said, between 10 and 14 million, which is, making it like the fastest selling game ever. If it did that between PC and PlayStation, and the majority of that obviously is PC, because people in China, mainly PCs they have, it's been causing PlayStations to sell more. It wouldn't really do much on Xbox anyway. It wouldn't make a difference. It wouldn't make a dent. It's not even something. They're not losing out on anything. When somebody can skip you're irrelevant when somebody could skip your platform, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and not miss a beat. So, yeah, I don't really think it matters whether it's a deal or not. I don't even think that's the biggest part of the story. Doesn't matter.
No, I completely agree with you, and I like that you threw in there that, like, the sales, if you look at the generation as a whole, and, Kami, let me go to you real quick here, because, I want to kind of get a stats number here. You're always providing sales figures across different platforms. I mean, when it comes down to it, Kami, BG makes a point. When you look at all the third-party games that were out there over the generation, and this isn't recent, this isn't after Microsoft's business podcast they held in February, it was a dramatic difference between PlayStation 5 sales and Xbox Series and X and S sales, when it came down to any third-party game. So at the end of the day, is the support really there, from the Xbox platform and the fan base?
I don't know, especially in East Asia, like PS5 is wildly outselling Xbox. So, when we're seeing 2 million plus players on Wukong just on PC, I think an Xbox port would really be like a blip on the radar at the end of the day. So I kind of agree, like, the reason doesn't really matter. And I also think that PlayStation would definitely disclose that if there was some sort of exclusivity deal. So this whole thing is really weird. But yeah, 2 million plus on PC and PS5. What is it going to sell on Xbox? Maybe 100K, 200K. Pretty inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. So
yeah, I just don't see why. I don't know. I don't see where Sony would want to come in and do something like this and not, like, scream it from the rooftops. Crap, you kind of put a couple of tweets out today. Where are you on this? This just doesn't seem like Sony's not going to put money into something and not talk about it.
Well, there's a bonus for Sony to do this if they did it, which is it makes Xbox look like a undesirable platform for developers to put games on. It furthers that talking point, and they probably found a little bit of extra money from Microsoft themselves putting something like Sea of Thieves on PlayStation. So they're like, hey, we got this 30%, just burning a hole in our pocket. Let's go ahead and lock down this game for a few months. Because, I mean, let's be real, PlayStation hasn't really had, first party wise, nothing. So, basically locking down something like this that had all this talk and hype behind it. I mean, I knew that it would do well. It's not my type of game, but you could tell that it was going to do well just by kind of the way that people were hyping it up and things like that. And PlayStation's the only console in town. So, you know what I mean? Unlike, and I know people go, well, maybe it wouldn't have sold well anyway. We have seen reports that college football sold some Xboxes, right? I mean,
yeah, I saw that.
If PlayStation had locked down that, they probably would have sold PlayStation. What I'm saying is it continues to make Xbox look bad, which is ironic because Xbox will sit there and still put their games on PlayStation after this, right? They'll work with them. It's like Phil Spencer has that mentality, when he goes to the hotel room, he's not in the bed, he's in the chair. if you get what I'm saying. Right? He that's the kind of guy. That's the kind of guy he is. Rumor has it. So basically what this means is it could mean nothing, but it could just be a coincidence. But we had a report that it was a memory leak on Xbox, and that's why it wasn't on there or whatever. But to me, it always sounded like Xbox just was not a priority for the developers.
You make two.
You have
two
almost
good
70
points.
million PlayStation sold. Yeah, you have almost 70 million PlayStation sold. Or if you're a developer and you can only get one console version out, are you going with the one that has almost 70 million sold, or the one that has maybe 24, 25 million sold? And people don't really buy the games anyway. So I mean, you're kind of it really answers itself. Like if you're a developer, and who could blame them, right? Or maybe Sony came in last minute and gave them a little bit of extra money. Like who knows? But either way, it all makes Xbox look even worse. And that's what Sony loves. Like Sony has to do nothing basically because Microsoft shoots themselves in the foot at every damn turn, right? Like this is going to be their year. Then next year will be their year. But then we'll find out that the games that they put out are going to be on PlayStation anyway, right? So we're all beta testers, and these games are all going to run best on the Pro, right? So I mean, it's like kind of is what it is. Like Microsoft don't know what they're doing, and without competition, Sony has zero reason to do anything almost, really. I mean, if you think about it, like people are like, where's the announcement? Where's the showcase? Well, we don't got to do any of that stuff because where are you going to go? Right? Yeah. If you're a console gamer, you ain't going to go to Xbox, right? Like that could be the next Dreamcast, right? Are you going to really trust to get digital games with them? You know what I'm saying? Half their digital games are tied to online and DRM. So, and even their physical games, like try to play Halo Infinite, right? Put that in. There's nothing on the disc. It's a disc. It's a coaster. Right? Like, I mean, and a lot of their games are like that. So, like I said, Sony has no competition. That's Microsoft's fault. Microsoft, gives up, and they don't really even try anything for that long. It's like they're like, hey, we're going to do this. And then like, a year and a half later, they're completely changed directions. And so that's bad for everybody. Like, I don't understand for people like Phil Spencer who hype up, we want the industry to succeed. And this is like, you think the industry is going to succeed if Sony can sell a Pro for $800? Right? And you know what I mean? There's no competition. You think that the industry is going to succeed like that? Get out of here. It's pretty ridiculous at this point. So, I mean, that's kind of my take on it. Regardless, I mean, it still either way, it makes Xbox look stupid. Well, and I'm sure Sony's not hating that.
I think you made a good point there. The one thing you said there, Crap, that really kind of struck home was the developers, right? So, BRAP, you were kind of arguing this today. Why would the developers, why would Game Science come out and make the quote that I just read? I got to be honest with you. If they got money behind the scenes, that's not a good look for them either. I just don't see why they would do that.
Yeah, it just doesn't fall down a line of like it just doesn't make sense to me. Like it just doesn't. It defies logic a bit because it's like if you've clearly talked about making this game for Xbox, which means that you've diverted resources, time, money to making a Xbox port, right? And then Sony, on Sony's side, it's, well, we know based on, we know when PlayStation gets a exclusive game, like a third-party exclusive, right? They let you know because they lock that down because they want you, or they want it, not you, but well, they also want us to buy their game too, but they want consumers who don't own PlayStation 5s to go out and buy a PlayStation 5. They want to, because they want to present that as you can only get this experience or this game here. It's funny, I listened to Seeds last night and had this argument about exclusives, and to Seeds' point last night, an exclusive is an exclusive to a platform regardless if it's first party or third party. But it doesn't make sense to me that Sony would make a marketing deal which would cost them money and then not get any kind of ROI in terms of like marketing Wukong and having Wukong associated with the PlayStation brand. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. And if it did happen, and I said this too on Twitter, like if it did happen at the 11th hour, whatever the case is, the only thing that I can think of that might make sense is that maybe they got a marketing deal to kind of make to prop up or to market Wukong, Black Myth Wukong, alongside the release of the PlayStation 5 Pro because of how demanding Wukong has been on consoles and PCs, to say, hey, here's a game that is one of the most beautiful games and uses Unreal Engine 5, and if you want the best experience, get it right now on the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's the only, and then market kind of as a kind of launch title for the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's the only way that makes sense. But But it just like as it stands today, like it doesn't make sense because there's like where's the ROI for Sony? We know they love to talk about their exclusive lineup of games.
That's right.
And push people to the PlayStation platform. So I'm not seeing that right now. So I'm not so sure how true this is. Coupled with the fact that you just mentioned, Mooch, like Game Science has already talked about working on this game. Microsoft's talked about it. I know people are pointing to Microsoft maybe dropping a hint. There's times exclusivity there because they said, we don't comment on deals that our partners have with other platform holders, whatever the case, whatever the quote was. But
that was a pretty bland statement. That was a pretty and I agree. I agree with BRAP. I mean, PlayStation. I've said it before. It's like a chick that goes and gets her boobs done. The first thing she's going to do is show them off to anybody and whoever wants to see, because she paid for it and she's proud of it. And PlayStation, when you look at their third-party games, that's what they do. They show them off like a brand new rack. It doesn't matter what it is, how big of a title it is. They paid for it. They want you to know they paid for it. And I just cannot see in any universe, especially after the FTC trial that went on, they had to disclose all their third-party deals. They had to disclose, all that stuff to Microsoft. I just cannot see them doing that. And I also, furthermore, I can't see the developer Game Science coming out and saying, hey, look, I mean, what do they have to gain by lying? Like, they sold all these copies, a large majority on PC, and then obviously a lot on PlayStation. But what do they have to gain by lying? I mean, they actually probably, honestly, would have taken less heat if they did say, hey, yeah, we got paid money not to put it on here, rather than, hey, your Xbox Series S is a problem. Like, we're having issues with optimization. They got more shit than that than, just coming out and saying we got money. So I don't think PlayStation's ever going to come out and say anything because they don't really give a damn what anybody says on Twitter anyways. But Game Science has already come out. They've already said it. And it just doesn't make sense. It does not make sense of them paying money and not saying that. Let's address
Seeds real quick. The other thing I was going to mention too is that we know that the PlayStation is trying to make inroads in China with the PlayStation 5 console, and so again, it's another that to me, if they did have a marketing deal, that would be a scenario, in my opinion at least, where they would leverage that marketing deal to market PlayStation 5 in China and have that game associated with PlayStation.
Yeah, but regardless if you did the marketing deal or not, it's still going to sell in. Can
we address the elephant in the room, though?
Go ahead, Wooly.
Good.
There's like two major elephants in the room here, and that's we've known for a long time now. The Series S is posing like huge trouble for developers.
Thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely.
It's like the Baldur's Gate 3 prime example. We've seen how Wukong runs on a PS5 and an Xbox Series X. Not great. Texture popping, like there's clearly LOD management issues there.
Not on the Xbox Series X, but PS5 and even PC. Well, every review I saw.
Sorry.
But every PC review I saw still had some technical issues.
Yeah. There's huge technical issues. It's not a polished diamond here. It's a diamond in the rough, right? And yet we're really just a Far Eastern developer. Like, we're really going there to suggest that it's not that the Series X and S version isn't ready, that they're making that game, trying to make that game run on a potato, and they've got it working flush and fine, up to standard. But it's Sony have gone in and covertly made a secret handshake with a developer who admits they're working on the Xbox version, therefore breaking a typical clause that an exclusivity deal would have, an exclusivity marketing deal would have, on top of the fact that Sony aren't marketing the game. They haven't got this marketing kind of deal going for the game. Like, all the signs point to this is not a marketing deal, that this has not happened. And yet people with their tinfoil hats are suggesting that, no, the Series S isn't the problem in this case, in this pretty tough to optimize game, this game that's very demanding on even the best hardware, right? it's not that it's not ready for that console. It's literally just that all of these things that are so far removed from reality and from being probable have somehow happened against logic. Like this is a boomstick level. You've heard it here first, Fonz level, conjectural, anecdotal kind of throw mud at the wall and hope it sticks. Like it is so. It's just so nonsensical at this point. And I just think to myself, like, what are we doing here? Really, guys? Really? We're really entertaining this? It just baffles my head. Like,
well, it's funny. So, anyway. Woolley, I'm glad you said that. Kami, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Can I just say, in their defense, I feel like Paul Tassi, that's who reported on this today, I don't think he's the type to make something up,
No, he has a source. He has a source, but that source could be Boomstick or Colt. It could literally just be a random guy.
The question is the source. The question is the source, Kami. Yeah, not Paul. Paul's reporting on what he heard.
Yeah,
it's more.
Paul's entertaining it for clickbait, isn't he? Paul's entertaining it for clicks and views. He's entertaining that.
Yeah, IGN also corroborated, which is really what sealed it for me, because I feel like they wouldn't put their name on it unless they saw some sort of evidence that this had happened. So I don't know, maybe they misunderstood or whatever, but I don't think they're the type
IGN don't misunderstand. IGN just jump and capitalize on misinformation for clicks. Their primary growth, their primary source of revenue is console warring, and so they've just been guilty of it just recently, where they've taken something that someone said, like for example, Square Enix, which we'll be covering later on, and completely distorting their words for the sake of console wars to appeal to clicks and views and requotes and stuff like that. So literally, they're not credible when it comes to the authenticity of the information that they put out, and that's not a tinfoil hat kind of statement. That's not conjectural. It's known fact that they have been exposed time and time again for wanton disinformation for the sake of clicks and views. So I just really don't see this as, it's so far removed from probable, or there is zero evidence to back it up. There is zero kind of
they said
even down to the NDA. Like NDA wasn't by Sony or anything. Like none of it makes any sense.
I think when it comes down to it,
it's super weird.
That's
I would love to know what they saw, though.
I would love to know too, Kami. But to be honest with you, that's why it's a great discussion to really get kind of all of the facts that we've all put together over the past few weeks, right? With what we know and months, right? What happened with Baldur's Gate and how that was delayed, and how we've heard we've had other devs come out and say that it's been a bit of a challenge. And I think some of us are being nice, but it's been a bit of a challenge for Xbox Series S. And that's where I was going to go to BG. BG, I think you guys talked about it last week. I know you've been talking about it here and there, sometimes on Twitter. BG, this Xbox Series S, I mean, we said it here a long time ago. And now everybody's saying the Xbox Series S is a problem. We've been saying it for a while. You've been saying for a while. This is more than likely the culprit is that box and the trials and tribulations that's causing developers across different developing teams. This isn't just a one-off. I mean, BG, what do you think when you think about this? Because I know you kind of went off, I thought, last week on the Series S.
Yeah, I think it's just there's enough smoke. We've gotten different accounts over the last 2.5 years. It started as anonymous sources, then it was indie developers, and now we're at the point where it's well-known AAA developers who have been at prolific studios, just flat out saying it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like the Series S is like the worst machine ever type thing, and it's just this, mechanical abomination that's just ruining game development, at every point.
Right.
But it's a problem. I think it's very clear that it's a problem. Now, people could always point to developers are not necessarily doing their best job when it comes to optimizing, even on the PS5 and the X. I get that argument, and I don't disagree with that. But I also think when it comes to the machine, you should also make it as easy as possible, because not every developer is on the same talent level.
That's right.
Not every developer, is the same when it comes to optimization. So if you could make it easier, whether that's, for example, with the Pro, that's where I'm like, bro, whatever makes the job easier and gets us the better result, I don't care. As long as we get the better result. People are like, oh, developers should just be better and pull more out of these consoles. And I'm just like, listen, every developer is going to be different. The best developers, we've seen it already early in the generation, the AAA game, open world game running like 1800p, 60 frames a second.
Yep.
And then you have other developers just struggling to get their games to run at 1080p. At a stable 60. So we've seen the difference. But I'm like, for a machine could bring the one that is struggling to the level of the most talented developer. So whatever gets us the best product, I'm all for that. Whichever avenue that goes down. Yep. So yes, I think anybody should be able to accept the fact that, listen, Series S is giving them some type of issue. It has been some type of problem. It probably wasn't the best idea. Sometimes getting things for the low price isn't worth it. Sometimes that lower price isn't always the best thing to happen.
That's right. I completely agree with you. So, P-Rock, I want to ask you something, because BG just kind of set something off in my mind that I said a long time ago, P-Rock. I had said when we saw the issues, remember when the Series S was originally announced, it was supposed to be this 1440p, 120 hertz, machine, or 1080p, even 1440, 1080p, pardon me, to 1440p at 120 hertz. Here's my thing. What we said on the show ages ago was some of the early games this generation were having a hard time with that console. As any generation progresses, which is why you see a PS5 Pro. In the past, you saw the Xbox One X, PS4 Pro. Things get more demanding, so you make a stronger console. I had said earlier on in this generation, I said, if this console's having a hard time and struggling to keep up early on, I said games are going to get even more demanding, which is even more difficult for the Series S. And that's what BG is just alluding to when he says sometimes coming in at the lowest entry level, which sounded really, really nice, okay, in November of 2020, doesn't sound so good right now. And that's a situation. You have, I believe it's, Warhammer Seeds, you're getting a code for it, is coming out in just a short period of time here.
Space Marine 2.
Space Marines 2, right? And I got to be honest with you, that the specs came out for that, P-Rock, and they're showing the Series S at really, really bad frame rate. They're not even going to, I don't think they're going to get a 60 frame rate option. I don't think, as it currently stands. So, P-Rock, where are you on this whole thing? As far as the whole, did Sony money hat behind the scenes? And we've kind of stretched this out a bit now. And I will get to the super chats in a minute, everybody. But where are you on this whole thing, P-Rock? We've kind of gone down the rabbit hole on this because it does open a lot of different doors as we dig further and further and peel the onion back.
So I think we all pretty much agree in concurrence that Sony has no problem money hand. And I don't think anybody who's not believing this rumor isn't because they're trying to defend Sony. It's just out of character. I think somebody said it best. Sony's the girl who just got a boob job.
Yep.
That you can't explain it anyway. In fact, that's literally Sony has no issues locking
You're
down
welcome, Puerto Rock.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation should end there because Sony locking down exclusives, they do that on purpose. They're trying to attract. That's the normal thing for them. If they thought Wukong would have been a great hit, they would make a deal. I mean, they did it with Stellar Blade, right? They did it with Rise of Ronin. They have no problem going after a title and then market it and let people know you can't play this on another platform, right? Sony's gonna try to go after an exclusive deal outright. If they can't, they'll be like, all right, how about PlayStation and just PC? If they say no, it's got to be on Xbox. All right, can we get at least a level, aka Hogwarts Legacy? We get something. Like, give us something. Give us something that, I mean, literally, like, that's like a secret. The extra mission of Hogwarts Legacy is on PlayStation, not on Xbox. They'll do anything, and they have no problem like making it known, right? So this whole weird thing that Sony has something to do, to me, it's more about trying to still make excuses. Like, come on, it's 2024. Can we just say it was just a bad strategy? Like, just admit the Xbox Series S, yeah, it sounded good in principle. A $299 console for little Timmy, you know, with Game Pass, the cheapest entry into gaming. It's gonna sell blockbusters and all this stuff. Got it, but the theory didn't pan out.
No,
it just didn't pan out. It just didn't work, right? And what it does is, I think Lord Attic said it. He didn't buy the Series S, yet that decision is impacting him. He bought the Series X.
Yeah.
But because of the Series S, he's missing out on games, or games are getting delayed. And this is the thing. People got to understand, if you don't learn your history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? We all know that when it comes to consoles, right? I know this is a new paradigm with, Xbox putting games on PlayStation, but traditionally, they're all in competition with each other. So some of the factors you have to consider is, one, how easy is our console, for developers, right? Because we don't want a, let's say, PS3 situation, right? Where it's too challenging for developers. But sure, developers, I think BG just said it, each vary in skill sets, right? Not everyone's like Rockstar, right? You got your mid-level developers, you got your top-tier developers, right? But then you have stuff beyond that. You also have the time and budget. Publishers are not going to give you all the time in the world to polish a game on every platform. Sometimes it's just good enough and release it, right? You have to meet a schedule. You have to meet a deadline. Even if you're a great developer and be like, hey, if you give me another 2 or 3 months, I could get the Xbox One version ready. They're going to be like, no, we're not going to miss the November timeline.
Right.
You launch that now and delay the Xbox, right? And now, because we're deeper into the gen, it's getting easier, at least for the mid-level publishers, to say, you know what? Delay the Xbox version.
Yes.
Right? You wouldn't do that in the beginning because you want as much people, as much consumers as you have now. But given just the complete lopsided sales of the PlayStation 5, you're seeing more and more people be like, don't worry about Xbox.
Yeah, but
we'll take care of it later. I mean, look at Capcom. Capcom right now, they're just out right now making games for the damn thing.
But they're
literally going out there.
P-Rock, they're not going to lose money. They're not going to lose money in another fashion because a lot of times, a lot of these third-party games are not selling well on Xbox's platform.
Exactly.
That's another reason that.
And again, the developer has said clearly. The Wukong developer has said clearly that they're working hard to try and get it out on Xbox. They wouldn't say that if they had a marketing deal with Sony, even an underhanded one. They wouldn't be promoting the Xbox console saying, don't worry guys, it's coming to Xbox. They would be breaking, they would literally be breaking the clause. So everything about this is like, why are we still discussing it? It's that silly. It is so silly. Paul Tassi knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how completely unrealistic and conjectural this whole thing is, and how just it's so backwards, it makes zero sense, and yet he still runs with it, and he kept it very, very, very vague, as he does. A source has told me, because he knows exactly what he's doing.
I do think when it comes down to it, we're at a point now, because this was brought up earlier with the game as well when it came out, and it wasn't on Xbox. It would have been nice if we're following up, if we did have, a source that came out that was from Game Science, or a source from some, when you just say a source, it is vague, and it kind of just stirs up, it trenches everything back up from where we were a week or two before this game released. Death Singer, I do want to hear your point as we kind of move on from this one here. I know, Singer, the reason I go to you last year is I don't even know, you being the PC gamer that you are, I know you have an opinion on this, but I'm just curious. I don't think. What's your take on the whole situation? I don't know if you have skin in this game.
I mean, it's obvious. If you have an ounce of logic, Sony, if a game is exclusive or if they have a mission or something, they will shove it in your face and rub it in your face.
That's right.
And they will make sure that you know. They'll make sure your parents know. They'll make sure your family knows and your friend
exactly.
knows. And they
won't projection going on here.
And they won't let up the gas. Nah, that's what PlayStation do. Like when Hogwarts Legacy had the exclusive mission and all that, there was huge banners saying Hogwarts Legacy, and then you saw in the big white writing, exclusive mission, only available on PS5 or PlayStation. And it's like, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so there's no conspiracy. There's nothing. The FTC, even the FTC case, they have to reveal all this stuff, so that they'd be going against that. So they're not gonna. No, it's all a whole load of nonsense. And if you believe it, then I have a bridge to sell you.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you on that, especially with the FTC and them having to come out and saying not only the deals that they had cooking at the time, but future deals. I just think that a lot of this is just kind of maybe a slow news day, we'll say, to say the least. I do want to move over.
Xbox are promoting or marketing it for PlayStation by having trouble getting it to run on Xbox. Like, just this outrage itself is more marketing for Wukong being exclusive to PlayStation than PlayStation would ever need to carry out to market the game. Like, people are aware it's exclusive because they're aware that, like Baldur's Gate, this is not running on a potato. This game is a demanding game, and you know, just that news, just the coverage of it is inadvertently promoting the game.
I do have to say the one thing that Crap had mentioned earlier about if you want to actually just kind of play devil's advocate and say that the reason that this may have been done on the deliberate end of Sony is that it would make Sony look, make Xbox look more inferior in this sense. In the sense of that is that you have this game, and Singer, I'm going to quote you here because I don't pretend to be one of the tech guys out there, okay, when it comes to this situation, but you were saying that Wukong is very GPU dependent. And and I don't know if you guys on the panel want to agree with Singer. We were talking about it last week, or disagree. But if it is in fact a GPU heavily dependent type of game, this would be a game that would benefit from the PS5 Pro, or at least that's some of the.
It wouldn't. See, here's the thing.
I'm only going by. People said the PS5 Pro would help games to achieve better frame rates, possibly better performance if it was a GPU intensive type of game. You had mentioned that this game would be because it was UE5. I don't know. I'm not claiming to know. If you and by the way, Singer, if you'd like to say something to clarify, I that was what I took away from last week's show.
The thing we don't know what the specs of the PS5 are. All we know is rumors and hearsay. Now, the hearsay was it was only the CPU they would overclock the CPU, right? Now, doing that is fine, but you only get marginal FPS boost. That does nothing for the GPU. So you'd still be stuck in the same situation. The only benefit would be the super sampling that PlayStation has.
Slightly not true. There is like all the calculations for the GPU and all the information and the buffer and the everything, all the dumping times, the rasterization, all of that is increased in speed with the clock speed.
Yeah, but the thing is, in real world terms, because I've overclocked my CPU, and I get about an extra 10 frames.
That's a lot, bro. 10 frames is a lot.
Okay, a game that used to run at 30 will now run at 40 or something. You know, it doesn't help Wukong because it's a 30 FPS
Makes it
game.
more stable, though.
It'll make it more stable. It'll make it more stable. Yes, correct, because they'll have an extra bit of the processing power, but it's not going to dramatically shift an overclocking. That's why it's interesting how they're not. They haven't. I mean, we don't know, but no leaks have said anything about the GPU. Only the CPU being overclocked. So,
well, they have mentioned with the GPU is substantial. It's like 30. It's like 32 teraflops, but that's not including all the other factors such as the increased clock speed. And you're probably looking at a real world performance of like 35 teraflops compared to the PS5, because the increased clock speeds, though marginal, they will make a substantial difference all in the sum of all its parts in terms of seek times, rasterization, dumping speeds, all of the things that both the CPU and the GPU do in tandem are increased because of the higher clock speed. The issue will be temperatures, like if they can keep the temps down. But I do believe like it will make a difference for an Unreal Engine 5 game. And also you got to appreciate with Unreal Engine 5, it's kind of dependent on pixels, like on pixel counts, and like things don't work very well if there's low resolution. And so because it's the entire rendering pipeline is based on pixels, right? And so I think that's another issue for the Series S here, is because it's already the space resolution is so low for a game like Black Myth Wukong that everything's just going to be really struggling in terms of the detail and attention, and like the LOD and all sorts is going to be struggling with the Series S. Like the NXG touched on it on his latest coverage. Like he went into detail on how the Unreal Engine 5 works in tandem with resolution, and it's not boding well for the Series S for that reason.
And the thing is,
it makes a lot of sense.
Microsoft can't ignore the Series S. It's their breadwinner, if you want to look at it that way. For this, go ahead, Crap.
Let me say something real quick. Okay, so back in June, they said Microsoft said we can't comment on deals made by our partners and other platform holders, right? So just for devil's advocate, I mean that's the thing, and people go, well, why wouldn't Sony, talk about this? Why would they keep it secret? They don't need to market these deals anymore, considering their position in the market. Basically, how quickly influencers are marketing these things for them. It's a win-win for Sony. They actively hurt their competition, knowing full well that people only care about releases in the first month or two. And, interest will eventually fall off, and they're going to save money by not having to do, the marketing spiel that they normally do with like a Final Fantasy, right? So when they pay for a deal for Final Fantasy, they're spending millions of dollars to market that and do commercials and stuff. That's why it's called a marketing deal. With something like this, the word of mouth is just going out there, and they're going, oh, we're going to get that Wukong, right? And they're like, yeah, well, it's only available, and the only game in town is PlayStation. I'm not saying for sure 100%. What I'm saying is, why would Sony admit to anything when it makes Xbox look like trash?
Right.
It does two things. People are only able to, and not only that, they raised the price of PS5 in Japan because they were importing those consoles to China, and the PS5s were selling out in China at such a fast rate that they couldn't keep up with demand. So, I mean, it behooves them to have this game associated with PlayStation and also make Xbox look like complete trash. So to me, it could be either way. Like, I'm not like, look, when Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't on Xbox at launch, they said the reason. They're having trouble with the Series S, right?
Yep.
Why would they admit that? And then with this particular instance go, we can't really comment on deals that our partners make, because that's sort of the same stuff. Like if you look, Sony has had those deals in the past where, if they have a partnership with somebody, they don't allow them to put that game into Game Pass, right?
Yep.
Right? I mean, we know that. We've seen those things leak out. And those are leaks. Nobody knew that. Sony doesn't advertise, hey, our games that we market and have marketing deals with can't go into Game Pass. They didn't say that, but that was what was going on in the contracts, right? And, also, Mooch, just looking back, like, remember, Microsoft couldn't mention that Destiny was coming to Xbox. They had to do that weird Destiny cologne commercial, and then they even had to stop that.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
It's like, again, there's all types of marketing and different kind of things that we don't know about. Sony doesn't have a lot going on first party wise right now, but Microsoft can't get out of their own way. So it behooves Sony not to say anything right now. I just think that, hey, Microsoft kind of alluded to being a deal. You have TASI saying it's a deal. You have IGN saying it's a deal. You have Windows Central kind of alluding to that too. So I'm just saying, like, if we see that this game comes out exactly 3 months after the PS5 version launched, we know something was up. I don't think there's any other way around it. Maybe we won't ever hear.
I think it's the other way around.
Confirmation, but
I think what you said holds water. No, I think what you said holds water. I just think that if it's 3 months, okay, I say no. If it's 6 months or a year, then I would actually lean a little bit more towards saying, well, they wanted this thing for exclusive time.
We never heard deals. We never heard deals like, Kena, Bridge of Spirits, right?
Right.
We knew that there was a deal there, but we never actually officially got that, right? It's like, okay, Sony helped in some capacity there or whatever, but nobody specifically knew. Like, okay, well, how many years is on there? Like they have varying degrees of deals with these companies, and again. Like Sifu, right? They had some kind of deal in place for limited exclusivity on that. Stray, same thing with that. So, listen, we don't know for sure. I just think it'd be crazy to completely discount it until we get some kind of confirmation. I think it makes sense to kind of play devil's advocate and say it could happen. Not
meaning to suggest the devs are purposely negligent or indifferent to the wants and desires of a gaming community here, but it wouldn't surprise me if, with the success that Wukong has had, like 10 million estimated to have sold, across Steam and PlayStation. like with that incredible success, they're probably wanting to relax and enjoy the fruits of their labor and like take some time off and take a vacation. But oh no, we still got to get that absolute, bastard of a Series S to run like our game. I'm sorry, lads, but is it even worth the headache at this point? Like, it's what are they going to get from this? Really, like 100,000 sales max. Like, and what's that for them? It's like a drop in the pond for them. It's a drop in the bucket. Like, it's getting to the point where 2 SKUs for such a small like return on investment. It's almost becoming like a chore for devs, and it's exactly what I said it would be 3 years ago. I created a meme, like a Star Trek meme of like of Pike saying thank you, PlayStation gamers, for buying our games, and then there's the robot dude going, what about us? And he represents the Xbox community, and he responds, who the hell are you? Like, I don't even know you anymore. And that's exactly the reality. There is no
Xbox community. That community is been gone.
They're gone, bro.
It's not there. I mean, I'm an Xbox fan, but it's like that community that once exists, that tight knit group, they're long gone. What you have left are...
They did you dirty, bro.
Yeah,
all that loyalty.
They sure did. They sure did. Listen, any company that you think cares about you is like you're fooling yourself. So I mean that's kind of the way it is. And the reason why I get so pissed off about it is because I look over and I've got 1,500 games installed on my Series X that are digitally, and then hundreds more physically, right? So if something should happen and they decide to shut down Xbox, then my games become useless. So that's the point where I am in the fight, right? When people go, well, just go to PlayStation or just do this. Like, I have a PlayStation as well, but it's like those games aren't going to work on PlayStation. You know what I mean? So I lose out on all that stuff. So that's the kind of fight for me. I hate seeing them, do the stuff that they're doing because it hurts gamers and it hurts the industry more than anything. That's why I'm hoping the PS5 Pro is huge, right? Because it's so boring. Nobody's excited by anything right now. A lot of the games have been lackluster. I mean, you had people hyping up Concord, and anyone with a brain could see that game was going to stink on ice. Like, I mean, from the first minute you saw it, it was going to be complete trash. And it is. You know what I mean? And nobody was going to play it. And, like this generation has been a lot like that, at least for me. I mean, there's been a few games that I've really enjoyed, but for the most part, it's the old tried and true stuff, let me play college football. That was like an exciting thing, or, Call of Duty. Okay. Or, but mostly this stuff that we're getting, there's no risk in that. There's nothing, like Hi-Fi Rush. That was a hell of a lot of fun for me. Right. I smiled the whole way playing through that game. Really good stuff. Interesting thing. Ghostwire Tokyo. I had a blast with that, like interesting stuff that we haven't really seen before. I was having fun with, the normal stuff like, like I really enjoyed the Batman Arkham games, and they come out with this Suicide Squad game, and that was just horrible. Okay, it's like we're getting worse games from companies that we used to count on, right? Forza Motorsport, we used to love that series. They used to come out with one every other year, and they take 6 years with this one, and it sucks.
Yeah,
right. It's like, what the hell happened? You know what I mean? It's like 343 can't make a Halo to save their life.
No,
right? Gears of War, one of my favorite franchise, absolutely ruined. Like the stuff that I like, they're not good anymore. It's just the games haven't been great.
No, hey, crap, you actually made it you alluded and segued over to the PS5 Pro. I do want to talk about that. I got a couple super chats here. One of them I'm not going to read, the great Donnell Brown, which I love Donnell. He's awesome. One of his, I'm not going to get into that controversy. But shout out to Full Sweat Tryhard. He says, just making sure this thing is working. The super chat's working. It's a miracle, guys. Please keep those coming. I appreciate it. He says, hit that like button, people. Looking forward to another Crossfire. Let's get it. Thank you, Full Sweat. I appreciate that. Satya, air quotes, whole slate, Nadella. Satya's here, crap. He says he's very sorry that they hurt you, and I think he's saying that from Satya. That's a parody account. So the gentleman is definitely on your side there. Donnell Brown says, I have a question. That's the one I'm not going to read. Shout out to the great Donnell Brown. We're not going to get into that whole controversy, but I do appreciate that super chat, Donnell. I'm not going to put the panel on the hot spot for that one. Donnell says, we all know why Concord is doing bad. Pardon me. Just reading what people say about the game. It has nothing to do with the game, but who is in the game.
Keep
We're gonna
Concord's name out of your damn mouth.
We are going to talk Concord.
Concord's
We
name.
are going to talk Concord. Don't worry, Willie. I know that's why you're here tonight, for one of the main reasons. Danelle comes back and says, sorry for all the super chats back to back. I had to pull over in a rest area and talk my crap, LOL. Shout out to Danelle. He says, I should have come on this week since you, P-Rock, Woolley, and BRAP are on. Indiana Jones plays best on PS5 Pro. I think we all know that, Danelle. Woolley says, Wukong's X Series S equals Sony's fault. Air quotes. Shout out to Woolley for being a member. I appreciate that. Grizzly Bear King says, when I take the blue pill, I call it Project Latitude. All right, thank you, Grizzly. Always, we have quite the comedians in the audience tonight. And God Emperor Sofa King says, Xbox bad. God Emperor Sofa King hanging on. He's one of those guys just hanging on to the Xbox fight. God bless God Emperor
better,
Sofa
man. Phil
King.
Spencer making $10-12 million a year.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Off of people like you.
We're talking about money. We're talking about money.
So
and what has he done? I always ask people this, right? Because I'm a fan, but what banger game has he had delivered in 10 years as boss of Xbox?
Starfield, bro. Starfield.
Good game. It's a good game, but it's not like that genre defining or like epic moment that he wanted. And they bought that. Right. So it wasn't something that they earned for themselves. And you throw on top of it that it had a lot of issues when they launched it. It's not what they want. They thought it was going to be Skyrim. Right. And like I said, I've got hundreds of hours in it. Right. But I like the game, but it's not Skyrim. It's not that, wow, holy shit moment.
I have an answer for you actually on that. The banger game they released. I am prepared for the hate. Don't worry. I'm already hunkered down in my bunker. State of K2. There's your banger. All right, State of K2. Please don't come at me. I'm now going to mute you all. Thank you.
Well, that singer, I could have told you he wouldn't have liked your answer right before you even started saying it.
Hey, me and Mooch played that game day one.
Yeah.
Right, on Xbox. We played it. We loaded up. I ended up halfway in the floor. He ended up halfway in the wall.
Yeah, that was great.
You couldn't get too far away from each other because you were tethered to the host.
Half your characters, when you went back, you're like, hey, Sheriff, do you want to go back? And they're like, nah, I'm too tired. I'm like, what kind of game is this?
Hey,
why is the
Billy
Sheriff
Bob
tired?
pissed in our food stores.
Let's go.
-4 food.
-4
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I was excited for that game because I liked the first game, but the first game had kind of a story to it, and I realized they've updated it a lot, and I haven't really gone back to it. But there was no real story to part 2. It was just like, we thought that it was going to be something else, and we gave it a chance. Me and Mooch played it.
Yeah. No, I listen.
It was hell, and it's not. Listen,
anything with zombies,
there was like, what the hell
was?
We even played that damn David Jaffe game. What was it, Drawn to Death or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Tried to give that game a chance, man. We used to give all kinds of games chances.
Give it a shot. But that's
just
State of Decay. I understand people say State of Decay is good now, but day late.
Well, you know what they did, Mooch? They released they basically remastered that game.
That's right.
And re-released it for free 2 years later.
That's right.
That's what happened, and they had like a lot of DLC and stuff. But it's like you should have had that ready to go from the beginning. And any game that releases with with an option in the menu to take you out of a glitch, I think that that's a recipe for not a good game.
Oh, that's right.
Listen, I like the idea of it. I'm hoping that State of Decay 3 can be good,
game.
Right? But
it is now.
It might be a decent game now, but at launch that game was.
I will say this:
it's still a good game.
Yeah, it is.
I have got it on PC, and it is solid. It has that addictive loop. It's very reliant on that loop. It does get a little out of hand the more you progress, though, because it's hard to keep track of all the different systems, and you just end up putting it down or starting a new game. But it is. I can see the appeal of it, but I just think it's more the people will play anything that has a constant feedback loop. Like people play the same kind of survival game.
Yeah, people.
Yeah. It's like a survival game. People will get a rock, hit a tree, hit more rocks to get more rocks to make an axe, so on and so forth, and people lap that up.
Well, I gotta tell you,
in every game,
I don't think anybody has State of Decay 2 on their bingo card for tonight's Crossfire. But nonetheless, we're gonna move on to the PS5 Pro. BG, let me ask you, because a lot of people go to you all the time when we're talking about new hardware. They're talking dollar amounts. And I'd like to get your take on it. I mean, I think me and you are kind of running parallel on this particular subject. But the PS5 Pro sketch emerged today. It all but confirmed. I'm not saying it is confirmed. We have to wait for Sony to officially do it. But the reveal coming this September, probably the early half. Everyone's saying 2 questions for you, BG. Are you interested in upgrading from PS5 to PS5 Pro? And where do you think the price point will be?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting it as soon as the pre-orders go up. Price point, a lot of people I think kind of jump out the window with this. I don't think it's I think somehow they figure out a way to make it like $549, $599 at the most. Not going to be any more than that.
Yep.
I remember when this generation was starting and people were looking at specs, people thought like somehow the PS5 was going to be, like $600, and it wasn't. Some of the exaggerations and the worst fears most of them never turn out to be true.
Right.
So yeah, for me, it's a day one. I mean, I already sold I had 2 PlayStations. I already sold one of them, before the value of it goes down.
That's right.
So in preparation for the Pro, and I'm one of those people. I think everybody should understand to keep their expectations for what it's going to do in check, right? My thing is with PS5 Pro, whatever it does is better than what we're getting. If and to me, it's a value judgment. Some people don't feel like a few $100, whatever the price difference is going to be what it gives you in performance.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it is. If it's a situation where, listen, like I still haven't played Final Fantasy 16 because in combat it stays at 60, but it drops down to like 900p or something like that, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right. If
this is something where it can have like a game that runs like native 1080p, get to 1440p, a game that's runs at somewhere in the 40s, get it close to at least close to a consistent 60. That's more than enough for me. I don't expect this thing to turn water into wine.
Right.
I don't expect this thing
Still
to
a pro console.
Yeah, I'm not expecting this thing to perform miracles. No, it's just going to be a half step that has some improvements. So and I think it'll be under 600, and for me, it'll be worth it. I know they when they make this thing, they know it's only for the enthusiasts that really care about every little frame rate, every little pixel. I mean, the PS4 Pro estimates are like at that out of the 150 million, whatever the PS4 was at. Like the PS4 Pro was only like between 10 and 15 million sales.
Right.
So they know it's not going to be a huge cut of the pie, and that's fine. It's not meant for everybody to care about and everybody to adopt, but it's for those enthusiasts who care about getting the best possible performance, at least out of a console. And it caters to those people.
BG,
and,
let me back up your point. You said 15 to 20%. I saw a poll. Again, this is a small census, guys, so take it with a grain of salt. But BG just gave you numbers from the PS4 Pro. I'll just back up your numbers, BG. Today there was somebody who did a poll, and it wasn't even ended. The poll had not ended. I think it's still going to the midday tomorrow. He started it. There was 10,000 votes in when I took a look at it. 20% said yes, they'll get a Pro. The other 80 said no, I'm not. And guess what? That's exactly where that average is going to land. Somewhere between that 15 to 20% of the enthusiasts will pick up the Pro. And I think that when Sony makes a Pro,
hey, FOMO can drive people too, Mooch. FOMO, people that go, hey, I'm not sure, or I'm not going to get it. When that thing starts selling out, when the pre-orders hit,
when they start seeing
people are going to rush to it.
Yeah, that Death Stranding 2 gameplay was glorious.
Hey, when they start seeing Avowed gameplay on that running at 60, people are going to be like, "Damn."
You will have to say the caveat to that is most of the people, the vast majority, only play Call of Duty and stuff like that. They don't care about no Death Stranding 2, respectfully. So, like,
it turned a lot of heads, bro. Like
it turns a lot of heads. But if you look at what. Most people will buy it for stuff like Fortnite, Genshin, the usual annual sports games, the Call of Duties, etc. That's a
given. We're only talking about the top 30%.
Yeah, so that's why when BG said 20%, that's why people will say, "Oh, it'll throw FOMO on." No, there won't be any of that because people will be like, "Can I play my Call of Duty?" Cool, thank you. See you later. And yeah, it'll be the
I'm like that,
enthusiast.
but I'll be in there.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Especially if you can.
But we're enthusiasts. We're not the average
Yeah,
consumer.
if you can get a good trade in. Yeah, if you can get a good trade in, I think it'll be worth it. But I think that thing's going to be 600 all day or more.
I think
because that 2 terabyte
Series
X, that 2 terabyte Series X is 600.
Yeah.
Like bold strategy, Mooch.
Yeah,
Let's see how it pays off for Microsoft.
Well, I will say this much. So
here's that same console we've been selling for. Here's that same console we've been selling.
Crap, it's been bedazzled though. They bedazzled it.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Yeah, I mean, what a difference. You usually got to pay extra for that. But listen, you could get a Series X for $350 last December, the whole month of December, right? And now they're trying to sell you, hey, you got 1 extra terabyte of storage, and we're going to sell it to you for $600. Like when I saw that, I'm just like, here's the reason. Like I know that a lot of Xbox fans hate when I say this, but you can tell Microsoft is so uninterested in the hardware aspect, because if you look at the FTC leaks, they had a spherical Series X rehash, right? And it had some minor upgrades like Wi-Fi and some other things, and they had a haptic feedback controller like the PS5 has.
Yep.
And both those things were canceled. And what did they give us? They gave us a spray painted Series X with no disk drive, where they filled it in with probably, caulk or some shit. And, they added some extra memory to the other ones. I mean, they are doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And people still out there believe that they're all in it to win it and shit. And I don't see how nobody else can see that that's not the case at all.
They got 47 new controllers.
Yeah, I mean, the same ones, though. It's like, oh, here's a fucking red one. Here's a blue and red one. Here's a red with off blue and teal blue. Like, I mean, seriously, the ones that they could really sell, like the cool ones, they don't sell them. They you gotta like get super lucky and win like a lottery or some shit, man. Yeah. It's ridiculous, man.
And just slightly countering, Death Singer's point, I do think, if 80% if 80% are completely uninterested, right, then there wouldn't be such a huge gap between the PS5 and the Series X and S in sales.
Yeah.
Because frankly, the Series S is the lowest window of entry to the mass gamer market, to casuals who only play their Fortnite, their NBA, and their Madden, their NFL, and their FIFA. Like literally, and their Call of Duty. But no, there is an appeal. But like when you showcase a game like Death Stranding, that turned so many heads. The viewership on YouTube says everything. People saw those visuals, and that was definitely running on a Pro. You're not going to commit.
Hey, they're probably going to show. They're probably going to show some GTA 6 at some point on it. They're going to show that Venom game. That's like sort of like that Miles Morales game. It's like a $50 kind of. It used to be. It was going to be DLC at one point.
Right.
So I mean, they got the Wolverine game that they can show off on it. They've got some stuff that they can show. Yeah, I mean, they got some stuff to show, so I have no doubt about it, and it will definitely look good. And I'm interested to see how their DLSS competitor, how that works. It's funny to me that Microsoft should be in on the ground floor on that stuff, and they're not. And Sony's like, hey, we've got our own version of this stuff, and it's gonna look really, really cool. And I'm all for that. I think.
Well, we have to hope and pray it looks good, because AMD tried it and they didn't do so hot. So we'll have to.
Well, supposedly it looks good, but it's interesting. I think the fact that everybody's full on like, hey, I'm going to pay attention to this announcement. When's it going to come? And I've been saying this for a long time, because people are going, well, was it delayed? And it's like, just look at the PS4 Pro. They announced it 2 months before it released. If you announce this shit back in January, nobody's going to buy a regular PS5. Like up to that point, you're going to really hurt your sales.
Well, crap, you mentioned,
you don't do that.
You said this, and I'll give Porter Rock his flowers. Porter Rock was the one running around. Porter Rock, what he's alluding to with that I believe it's supposed to help, especially older games and maybe even some of the younger current games in this generation. The pisser, right? The PSSR. P-Rock, people loved when you said that, buddy. That went off like fireworks. So shout out to P-Rock for that one. But I got to tell you, P-Rock, what do you think? The one thing I disagree with, Crap made a lot of good points. I don't see this thing going over the $599 price tag. And the reason I say that is, listen, we are still in a very, very rough economy, and there's no way a 6 in the front digit, okay, is going to go over well. The media
How
I'm
already.
gonna sell my
for the
mother
same
for a
price
PS5 Pro.
as
I'm gonna
the
sell my own
Series X.
mother.
Yeah, but
for that.
crap, you answered your question with the Series X. Microsoft has absolutely zero F's to give in the hardware
I get
business.
that too, but I also think that they're going to sell the PS5 Pro for $599 with no disc drive, and then if you want the disc drive, you have to buy it for $79 or whatever.
So I think I know where you're going with this with Mooch. All right, so let's look at a couple of points. Let's look at first. This isn't Sony's first mid-gen refresh. This is their second. So they have to look at the PS4 Pro, and they're probably asking themselves, where do we go right? Where do we go wrong? I think we can all agree the PS4 Pro wasn't really an impressive mid-gen refresh.
Right.
All it did was really a resolution boost, right?
Yep.
It didn't do much, right? They kept the 400 price point, right? And maybe at the time they're thinking, hey, like what you're thinking now, we got to keep a modest power point if we really want to skyrocket this thing, right? PS4 Pro, some people bought it, but overall, some people say it was mostly for VR because you got a better experience for VR. But you didn't get they didn't go as far as what Xbox One X did, right? Okay, so there's some lessons learned to that. Okay, so you got that. For this gen, they have to be saying to themselves, we can't do another half-baked upgrade. You're not going to go full-blown PC, but people got to have a better, more reasonable, a better experience than what they did with the PS4 Pro. They just have to. It can't just be a simple resolution boost, right? They're packing in more technology. They decided to say, you know what, we're going to create our own technology with Pisser. We're not going to rely on FSR.
Right.
Pissers all the way. ML, AR learning, all this stuff. So they're clearly packing in more technology into this box, right? They're also not going to sell this box at a loss.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
If you want to pack in more technology, right?
Yeah.
Not sell it at a loss, and have at least a more discernible difference as compared to the PS4 Pro versus PS4. Yet you're still going to do it at $500 when right now they're still selling PS4 for $500. I could maybe understand if the PS4 was being sold for $300. Like the PS4 Slim, because when the PS4 Pro came out, the Slim was $299, and then when Black Friday came out with Uncharted, they were selling it for $250. They just raised the price of the PS4 in Japan, right? So if you're expecting some type of noticeable technology, you got to pay for it, and I don't see them. Like if the PS5 Pro does come out at $500, I would be concerned. I'm thinking, did you really put in some decent level of technology in this to have that cheap price point? Because again, they're not going to subsidize the technology with this one. It's going to be launched for profit. So think about it: a $500 Pro that's profitable. How much technology do you expect to be packed in?
I don't think
we all gotta look at a stance. I think it's $600 all digital. Because they're going to pack in a decent amount of technology.
$600 all digital,
really separate itself.
And then you also buy the $70 attachment disk drive. That you're up to $670. So, but you're saying, but when you advertise it, you're saying $599. P-Rock.
Oh yeah, but it's $600.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the same. Yeah, we're off by $1. Oh, I'm saying to you, but that makes sense. When people, you do see what people are running around.
It's going to be $800 or $900. Then that's just
$800, $900. I mean, this
is not that.
BG,
that's ridiculous.
BG
right? I think $600 right now.
BG was
is
saying
an acceptable price point.
This is crazy talk. But nobody says anything when these numbers are. Well, you even see some of the media outlets saying it. 700. It won't be 700. Not. I mean,
I think 600 digital. I think 600 all digital.
Yes,
is the most likely reasonable price digital, point. It's not going to be $499. It's not going to be $500.
No,
it's just not.
No.
If it is, it's in trouble. We're going to rag on it.
Bro,
right?
Look at how expensive the VR2 was when it released.
Yeah,
like we're not. There's no way.
There's no way.
Yeah, 600.
I could see
digital.
I could see maybe a bundle that comes with a disc drive for like $649 maybe. So you at least save a little bit on the disc drive.
Great call.
And then I'm also going to say like $599 for the all digital version.
Yes.
You know what's funny though? Didn't they, when they released the Slim all digital, they raised the price by $50? Right? It was like,
that's the first Slim.
Did,
that was more like, I'm going to be honest, this gen, if you were an early launch adopter, you actually benefited. Because
Bro,
if you
Yeah,
waited, you paid more. Like
Yeah,
this is the first gen where if you stuck around and wait, no, you're actually gonna pay more for waiting.
like
what?
my older brother, see, I got a PS5 day one. My older brother got his from a scalper. He paid like $800 for his.
Yeah.
So I mean, like people will pay if they really want
Bro,
it.
just give me a Death Stranding 2 bundle.
I will say
special
this.
edition Death Stranding 2. I will sell my own mother for that.
I will say
I'll pay
this.
$1,000 for it.
You know, Death Singer is right. We are the enthusiasts. We're the hardcore. We're the fans. We love gaming. We love console gaming. The audience that is still willing to buy or is willing to buy a $500 or $600 console at this stage of the gen is getting smaller and smaller. You know, the reason why, you know, PlayStation 2 and all that, you know, even 3, 4 is because of the price drops. If a person is willing to buy or pay $500 or $600 for a console today, then they would have bought it 2 years ago. You have an audience that's just not going to drop $500-$600 for a console. They want that $350 price point. They want that $300 price point, right? So once you hit those metrics, once you hit those marks, you're going to get more people in on it, right? That's
Those
the reason
days
why
are over, though, according to both Sony and Microsoft. I mean, that ain't happening
I don't
anymore.
know.
I agree with you, but I agree with you, but I think over the next few years, people are going to start to see the need for the PS5 Pro more and more. I do think that it's not going to, you know, do miracles like someone was saying earlier, but like GTA 6 is probably going to be 30 FPS on any console.
Yep.
But Monster Hunter Wilds, maybe, that's probably going to be much better on the Pro. And, you know, the next Naughty Dog game, the next Sony Santa Monica game, that first party stuff that really pushes the visuals is going to be much, much better on the Pro.
Yep.
So I think the console is going to have legs.
It's definitely going to be image quality, resolution, and graphical settings that are the focus, not necessarily frame rate and performance. Though it will be more stable, it's definitely not going to target typically double the frame rate of standard PS5. It's going to be what appeals to the eyes, and it's going to, you know, devs are going to put out loads of patches for the PS5 Pro, and people are just going to see these wolves of like, suddenly there's it's got ray tracing, like I keep saying, Death Stranding 2, bro, with the ray tracing, the ray trace lighting that was in the trailer, like it just looks absolutely stunning. And to see eye candy like that is really going to appeal to people. And I do think I'm excited for all these patches that are going to be coming out for all these games and seeing the huge difference in the visual quality and fidelity. I would like 40 FPS to kind of be the reach and benchmark for a lot of these games. Like, that really is the sweet spot for me. But either way, I do think image quality and stability and graphics is going to be focus, not frame rate.
Here's what I don't understand. Why? Go ahead, Seeds.
I mean, it seems like this thing's real, hypothetically.
Absolutely.
And hypothetically, I think that the price point, this is just my opinion, is going to be $650 and $699. Could be wrong. Could be well, the reason I say that is that I was on a show last night on Boom's show. He was kind enough to invite me on, kind of be the PlayStation guy versus the Xbox guys. And I said that the reason I thought that price point of maybe meeting in the middle at $650 is the market's going to dictate that. Mm-hmm. And so far, the market has been red hot on selling PlayStation 5s at full price. People have not backed off of it. And right now it's trending, 7% above the PS4 is the last figure I looked at. The PS5 sales trending 7% above. It's a luxury item. We're talking about something that this, no offense to anyone, listening, but this item is meant for people who are, who make enough money to do it. And Sony knows that. Sony knows that there are people out there, millions and millions of people out there who will pay $700, $650 to get their hands on this, and they won't hesitate. Probably some of us on this call wouldn't hesitate to throw that down. And so,
go ahead. Let me let you finish. Sorry, go ahead.
The other thing I was going to mention is, I think hypothetically, if this console is able to, from everything we've been told, in order to get your game onto this console, you're going to have to, it's basically has to go through testing to show that it can hit certain thresholds. And I do think that Grand Theft Auto 6, it may not hit 60, but I could foresee it having a graphical mode on there that is above the base PS5 and above whatever the Xbox Series X does.
Oh, without a doubt.
I could see that.
They have to have that. They have to.
That happening, and then enticing it furthermore, not only with a bundle, but also with depending on who gets the marketing rights. So, yes, it's a sticker shock when you hear me say $650 to $699, but because of the luxury item and the market so far of what we've seen, people not hesitate on $500. I think they'll probably keep it at that price point, and then if they see, hey, we're not selling like we would like to, we can always drop the price down.
Well, let me
but
say
I
this,
think it's going to be hard to get for a while.
Seeds, I'm glad you brought up what you said, and the great gaming Forte is with us here. Forte, I was really hoping. Listen, I went to that big fountain in Rome. I flew out there earlier this morning. I threw the penny over my shoulder for good luck. I said, let the great gaming Forte be here tonight. Here he is, folks. Forte, the reason it's so important you're here is we're talking dollars here when it comes to new consoles, and nobody really knows this more than you do. But the one thing, and I know it was mentioned earlier, I think by Crap and P-Rock, right? I think BG mentioned it as well, is the trade-in. Everybody that is discussing whether or not they're going to get a PS5. Very few people in the chat, very few people listening tomorrow are going to say, geez, I don't have a PS5. Most people have a PS5 right now, regardless of what console you prefer. When it comes down to it right now, Forte, what is a PS5, the original PS5 physical disc, getting as a trade-in right now? Do you have it? Even if you're roughing it, you're off by $5, $10. That's no one's holding that against you. Where are we right now on a trade-in?
300 regular, 330 for pro.
So 330 for pro membership.
Yeah, that's without any.
Okay, so I got the pro membership.
Any bonuses.
So BG,
without any bonuses going on.
That's without the bonuses, which generally when the consoles come out, you guys will throw another 10% sometimes on there, 5%. What I'm saying to you is, okay, for trade-in purposes towards a new console, BG said it, he's like, when you actually do the math, okay, that's $270 out of my pocket right now. That's without the other incentives that may happen.
You know how much I paid for my Slim?
What do you got?
I upgraded?
What?
I paid $63 for my Slim.
Tell us how you did it, Forte, because I think other people would like to know.
I just wait. I don't buy day one if I don't have to. I just wait. It's going to be harder with, new systems is always kind of hard to wait. But you just got to wait for the right deal. Like I just waited until, normally when new systems come out, they have higher trade-ins for the older ones because they want to entice people to come in and get newer systems because newer systems turn into, more accessories, more games, stuff like that. So they always entice you to do that. Then you always get the bonuses with your membership. And then they usually give you like $25, $30 extra if you upgrade towards a particular console. Usually like back then it was for Series X or PS5 Slim. You got like $25 extra. So your $350 turned into a really quick 400 and something bucks by the time you looked up. And I was able to trade in my base PS5 disk drive for, I think it was like $438 after all the bonuses, and the PS5 was $500.
Okay.
So I paid a little bit more if you think about taxes. So probably $90 after taxes.
But so guys on the panel now, let me just open this up. Guys, honestly, no more roundtable. You guys shout out whenever you want at this point. I mean,
but BG said it though.
Well, he did. He did say that.
Get rid of your stuff while you got value.
The thing is though, so wait a minute. So I will say this much. BG said that. That's why I kind of made a note here. I'm like, wait a minute. I got to actually get a hold of Forte, find out what the values are here. But it sounds like it's actually better for us to wait a little bit because you are going to get, when you were on the show, Forte, just, 3-4 weeks ago you were on, and I said, Forte, can you give us a live on air what it was worth? It was $350. It was $350. Now we're down to $330 as a pro, $300 without pro membership. So I think right now I'm almost better off waiting until you guys are taking the pre-orders for the new console.
And you also got to remember too, depending on the price that PlayStation sets for this system, that will also set the price for what they're going to sell base PS5s for. Because if you remember when PS5 came out, people were crazy. People thought GameStop was crazy for selling PS4 Pros for like, what was it, $379? They were selling them $20 off the price of a brand new one when it first came out for used ones, because it was just, PlayStation wasn't selling them no more. And PlayStation wasn't selling them, and it was the only other system available outside of PS5. It was like the next highest system in line.
Mhm.
So people were still buying them at $379, which is $20 off the price. And I remember where those things were selling for like $250.
Right.
So it's a good chance. And they were giving really good trade-ins for PS4 Pros at the time. And they were giving like dang near $280 for those. So it's a good chance that if PS5 Pro comes in at $650, you know, God forbid, $700. And to that case, I'm always one of those people that don't mind. Like, I kind of want gaming to move past this territory where they feel like gamers aren't willing to spend money on their hobby. You know, I do understand that there are people out there that will not spend that much money for a system.
Yeah.
But there are people that do it. There's people, I mean, listen, there's people that go out and pay $1,000 just to, you know, upgrade their PC every 2 years. You know, it's a different kind of cat, but it's still the same thing. You're still putting money into something that you care about. Everybody on here, like people come in there, trade stuff all in the time, and they'll tell me like, oh, I wish they gave me more. And I was like, dang, that's like half of how much the system costs. It's like, well, I spent like $700 for my PS5. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, that's your fault. Didn't nobody tell you to go out there and get scalped to death? But that just tells me that people are willing to pay for it because there was, I mean, if you really want something, you're going to get it. And like BG said, the 20% of gamers out there, which is mostly, you got to think, out of 100% of all gamers that play on PlayStation, 15 to 20% is the hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, the hardcore is going to go out and they're going to go out and support, and they're going to go out, especially if they feel like it's beneficial to what they want. Like, you know, the main reason, like the reason I won't buy the next Xbox is because I have a PC with a freaking 4090 in it. I don't need it.
No,
but I will buy another PlayStation. I'll buy a Pro because I don't know when those games are coming to PC.
That's right.
And I want to have better performance.
That's correct.
And I do think that Sony PlayStation as a whole, the reason I went higher on the price, I think that they are in a phase right now of new leadership coming in. They're going to test some things in the market. And I think that, you know, you look at Concord, for example. I think what you want of the game, they could have released it free to play, but I believe they want to capture some data on several of their live service games. And so they go, we'll throw it out at $40, see what happens. I think that when it comes to this console, because enough reporting's been out there, it seems like it's going to happen. They're going to test the waters and see what the market responds to on that price. Because eventually you're going to have a PS6. And that PS6 is going to cost even more money to make. And so eventually these companies are going to say, hey, look, the new standard price is now $600 for a console. Or whatever the market bears. At the end of the day, like, we might, as consumers, at first scoff at the price, but these companies know there are enough people out there that are going to pay for it, and if they get comfortable at $500, eventually you're going to get comfortable at $600, and then eventually it just becomes a number up to a certain extent. Now, obviously, if you start trying to go too much out, that's when the market is going to bear against you, and it's going to go up against you. But until the market decides to do that, I can see Sony basically testing that and saying, let's see if we can sell this thing for $650, $700. And if we see that the sales aren't where they want, like PS4 Pro sold 13 to 14 million. If they're not on pace to get that, you may see them bump the price down because they can always go down. The one thing they don't want to do is go up. And so
I just find it painfully ironic that people won't hesitate to spend £500-600 quid on a graphics card, or
they won't hesitate.
£1,200 on a tablet, or 1,500 quid on a smartphone.
That's what Forte is saying,
or 2,000 quid on a laptop. But £600 for a pro model console, literally a professional version of a model, like. It's designed as a bespoke, high-quality, high-end piece of hardware, and people are outraged whilst tweeting about it on their super high-end flipping iPhone 18 Pro Max.
That's been a big talking point in the media since the end of last generation. Like BG said it, when we had all those kind of fake concerns as we were going into this generation. Was PS5 and Xbox going to be $600? Was it going to be $700? They were talking about that then. I do think when it comes down to it, like, yes, we want to make sure that these companies don't take advantage. You don't want things to be $800. I understand that. I completely get that. But at the end of the day, P-Rock, I'll ask you. You were the one that kind of broke down the pricing before Forte got here. So, P-Rock, you have a PS5 right now. Do you have a physical disc version or do you have a digital, P-Rock?
I have the physical.
Okay, you have the physical. So that when they're getting the most you can out of that, let's go lowest common denominator. Okay, let's not give you the Pro Edition trade-in. At the $600, you get would you get the digital or would you want to get the one that has the physical edition? Now you want the physical edition as well, right? In the Pro,
so I want the physical edition, yeah.
Right. So I'm with Kami. I do think it'll
at least
I think it'll be six.
At least give me the opportunity to buy.
Correct. I think it'll be $649 is what Kami said, and I do agree with him. Let's use that number for an example. So $649 or $600 for the digital. $649. You're at $350 with a trade-in. That's without a 10% bump up. That's without any other incentives or anything like that going on. That's probably the lowest I've heard it in a while. $350 out of pocket to upgrade for not only what we're talking about, and I do want to say shout out to Face23. He says difference this generation that people don't mention is the 60 FPS. 90% of games have a performance mode or run at 60 FPS this gen. Most games are GPU limited, not CPU limited. Star Wars Outlaws on PS5 runs at 720p 60 FPS in performance mode. So he's saying you would probably be able to hold that 60, maybe get that, like BG was saying, up to a 1080p or a 1440p. So P-Rock, that's only games that are existing now, not the games that are going to be even more demanding in the next 3 years. So is $350 out of pocket, as using the hypotheticals we have tonight, which are not, I think you would agree with me, P-Rock, the hypotheticals are not far off. Is that ludicrous to you?
No, absolutely not.
Right.
But again, this is for us enthusiasts, right? So I think it's a great deal. You trade in your PS5, one, you get a brand new fresh console, right?
Right.
Let's say if you run your PS5 ragged, I mean, it's been 4 years, right? And I played the thing almost every day.
Yes.
So, you know,
nice.
and here's the only thing, like, for example, I didn't get a PS4 Pro only because I felt it wasn't worth the upgrade. When I looked at it, I was like, I'm not really impressed. Like, it just wasn't worth the energy, right? So that's really why I'm looking at the PS5 Pro and the price tag and stuff, right? Is it worth the thing? So I think somebody mentioned 650, 700. That wouldn't shock me, right? That wouldn't shock me at all, because when you think about it, right? Most of us are talking about getting a PS5 Pro, right? Look at it this way. Mooch, you already have a PS5, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm in BG's court. I still have the two.
Yeah. So you got one. I think most of us got one, and we're all considering getting the PS5 Pro,
That's
right?
correct.
Especially if it does a decent job.
Yeah.
But guess what? Guess what we didn't do? We didn't grow the market. We're already in the PlayStation 5 console, right?
That's correct.
So most people who's going to get this console are mostly upgrades.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Agree. I think
Sony
so,
selling
yes.
this for Sony selling this for 650, 700. It wouldn't shock me, only because the console that grows the market is the PS5 Slim and the regular disc. That's the console that establishes the foothold.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? Because
That's
even if let's say if a whole bunch of let's say like if 25 million PS5 owners upgrade to the PS5 Pro, not one growth happened, not one. Because we're already in the market, we're already subscribed, we already buy the games. The only thing Sony gets is just extra money for console hardware. But as far as software, the only way for Sony to sell more software is through the Slim. It's through the basic PS5. That's the bread and butter that's going to grow the market, right?
Yeah.
I think somebody mentioned though. I think it was Okami talking about, in the future, people may see the need for this Pro, and I really like that point. And the reason why I say this, and I hope we don't create a new topic out of this, but I just want to mention this. I think one big problem the industry has right now is the generation's too short. And the reason why I'm saying that is, if it takes 5 years to make a game, let's say it takes one developer 5 years to make a AAA game, but your generation is 8 years, that means that developer can only make one game.
Yep.
We can't sustain that. That developer cannot go learn ray tracing, learn PISA, learn all this stuff, invest in all this, and then you only make one game.
Yeah.
And then the second game you make, by the time you finish that game, is the new generation, and chances are you're going to make a cross-gen. That's not sustainable. Something's got to change. You can't have an 8-year gen, but 5 to 6 year game development. The only studios that will be able to keep up with that are the big EAs, the Ubisoft, the Activisions, right? And that's only because they have multiple studios. But the other ones, they just can't keep up with that. You can't tell a mid-level developer that can make a great game and be like, hey, we made a new console. Cool. 5 years later, you release your game. And then 3 years later, hey, we released a new console. And you're like, whoa, like the PlayStation 6 out already? Like, what? We just made our first game and now we're getting a handle. I think
even Sony's own first-party studios are struggling like, to keep up.
I mean, look, yeah, exactly, right? So how do you resolve that? What if they do a good enough job with the PS5 Pro that they could extend the gen out to 10 years? And then people be like, hey, wait a minute, I have my PS4 for 5-6 years. You know what? Let me get the Pro. It's probably a cheaper price by that point, maybe $550. You know what? Let me get that Pro.
So
it's time for me to upgrade.
I think there should be cutoffs.
And I think that's possible.
In your situation, I feel like, and I always felt like if we had longer gens, then we should have cutoffs in the middle of a gen, especially if you're going to a more powerful system. Like, whereas, like I said this about Xbox, I said if Xbox really truly wanted to get away from that Series S, they could just literally at some point in the next year or so, basically just cut off that gen and say all the games going forward, pull that Band-Aid and say, we're only supporting for first party. We're only supporting the new system now, the Series X. We're not doing the Series S anymore, and they already have the infrastructure in place where they could just say, if you do want to play those games, it's going to be from a streaming manner. But if you want to upgrade to the next system, you could do that. I always felt if PlayStation wanted to go longer in a gen, 5-6 years in, 7 years in, you know, like you said, 5-6 years to make a game. That first game, it's going to be available on both systems because you know PS5 Pro is going to be there. You got the base PS5. Everybody's going to be able to play that one. But as you get to that second game, that would usually be in another generation. That's when you start having a conversation about, this game's only going to be on the PS4 Pro. If we can do streaming on the PS5, if that's something they want to do, but we need to move forward to
that's what
like
Xbox
you said, make the gen go longer.
Xbox is going to try and do what you're saying, and I'll give you the mic in a second, Seeds. But what you're saying, Forte,
but that doesn't help the problem. That you just renamed. You just did the same thing. The point of extending the gen is to capitalize on the whole entire foundation of the gen. If you cut off, let's say in this case, you cut off the PS5 Pro, let's say in year 6, then you might as well call it the PS5 in year 6, then you might as well call the PS5 Pro the PlayStation 6, because the problem is you establish a foundation of consoles, but by the time developers can actually maximize it, because you're not going to maximize the profit and get really going on your first game. The first game is usually the start. Like, you made your first game, you used the PS5 technology, you got your reps in, and now you're ready for your second game. And now you learn a new console's coming out.
I just think 4 years is too short to see a tangible difference.
Like
you're saying,
you're not going to see it literally. The PS5 Pro is like the PS4 Pro to the PS4. Like, people have in their heads. People have in their heads that the PS5 Pro is somehow a PS6. They're disappointed with the estimated theoretical 33 T-flops, and I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, like, the Death Stranding on the PS5 is like the equivalent of a 2070, right? But with Death Stranding, it's optimized it's as performant on a PS5 it's close to a 3070 performance, right? So they can get far more juice. They can squeeze far more juice out of the PS5 above where it's punching above its weight. PS5 Pro is going to be a beast.
I just am at this.
People are disappointed with it.
Yeah, I'm just at a point now with consoles. Like, I'm gonna buy I'm gonna buy the PS5 Pro just because I know it's gonna be more powerful than what I have. And when I'm playing those games, I want those games to run better. Not everybody's gonna have that same thoughts. We still have people playing on PS4s because guess what? They don't care. They just, as long as the games that they like to play are still available, they're going to keep playing because performance be damned. They don't care. They don't look at it like that. But for like people like us, that 20% that we were talking about, I look at it. I'm gonna be very skeptical about it, no matter what they say, because we always get halfway through a gen, and we're gonna get to the point where I remember saying last gen that this is the gen that we're going to finally get, 60 frames per second as the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And look where we are. We're
is on
still
hold.
not.
But it is the norm, though.
No, it's not.
The majority of again, listen, name me 50 games that you cannot on PlayStation 5, 50 that you cannot play at 60 frames.
No. When I'm talking about, okay, so when you're talking about, you can hit 60.
Listen,
you're right.
Listen, 60 frames is the norm. The problem is when a game is locked at 30, we are raging over that one game, and now we kind of think, oh my god, these consoles are trash over one or two games, right? Majority of the games, if you have performance mode, you can play them at 60 frames.
But I think the one thing that
majority of games,
I think
for $500,
the image quality isn't always there, though.
But think about this, really, when you think about it, we're holding a $400 console to the highest standard. It's $400. Are we forgetting that the console is $400? And the reason why I say $400 is because the $500 of PS5 is only because of disk drive. It's not because of extra performance boost. It's just a disk drive. So in reality, the actual console that computes and does all this stuff is $400.
Yeah. I think
it's only $400.
No, you're right.
Like, what do you think about it? 400 CPU, GPU, all put together with RAM and SSD, boxed together with a controller. $400.
It's $100. It's $100 to go to Five Guys for burgers. Yeah,
there are GPUs that are $500 by themselves.
But I think if I want to say something real quick, because I think that what you guys are bringing up is a great point about extending the gen, right? And I think that PlayStation, as a whole, is in actually a very good spot to be able to do that. I'm going to tell you why. Grand Theft Auto 6. I will continue to bring up Grand Theft Auto 6 until I'm blue in the face. Because if you look up the most played game to date across all consoles, it's what? Grand Theft Auto 5 is at the top every single time. It's at the top. PlayStation makes money. Every time you go on there, you buy shark cards, you buy stuff like that. When Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out and you can no longer play that on your PlayStation 4, we're going to see that growth that Porrock talked about, seeing that market grow. People are going to go in, they're going to flood, and they're going to have a choice to make. They got 3 choices to make, right? Do I get an Xbox Series X? Mm-hmm. Do I keep my library on my PS4 and upgrade to a PS5? Or do I get a PS5 Pro? And the reason I think that they're in a interesting position to be able to extend the gen by 1 or 2 years is the people who Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to absolutely. I mean, you guys remember when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out? Gaming was not as big then as it is now. Gaming has grown exponentially since Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. I was overseas doing deployments when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. That's how long ago this was.
Yeah.
And so I think that they are in a very unique position to be able to extend and delay the PS6 to come out a little bit later, give some of their studios time to not only catch up, but to start working on dev kits for the PS6 at some point, but also get more games out on the PS5, on the Pro, and the PS5 base. Because that game, I'm telling you, man, I'll say I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but when Grand Theft Auto 6 drops, I think it is going to fundamentally game we haven't seen in a very long time. They're spending almost 3.
Big facts.
You cut out a bit. Well, wait a second. So I do agree with what Seeds is saying.
They're in a very good position when we're talking about extending the generation. I think that PlayStation's in a very good spot to say, hey, look, guys, we're making a shitload of money off Grand Theft Auto 6. We got multiple studios pumping out Spider-Man, a couple of these other games, Wolverine. Let's push the gen back by a year or 2. So let's give it time. We're still selling consoles. Then they bring out the PS6. I think they're in a good spot to do that.
I don't think they have to bring out they can do that just due to the fact that they really don't have, with the way Xbox is acting right now, they don't even have to worry about that.
No, so with Xbox releasing their next console a few years after the Pro, Xbox are going to be releasing their next the next generation, right? That's at least their roadmap, because they're not releasing a mid-gen refresh. And so what will be a very small... There's not going to be a huge leap between the PS5 Pro and the next generation Xbox. Sony can afford to wait a few extra years to kind of release like the PS6.
So I agree. I agree with you, Wooly. I agree with you, but I really hope that that's not the case. I do think, don't get me wrong, P-Rock made an outstanding case with when you have developers taking a 4 to 5 year lead time, that if a Pro comes out now, yes, some of the ones like we haven't seen yet, like Sucker Punch's game and what's going on with Cory Balrog, and maybe even Sony Santa Monica's second game that's coming. We may see all that end of this generation. That's fine. But my point being, I do think you're going to have Microsoft. What Forte was saying with Xbox could just drop the S and say we're going to go to the X. Forte, I don't think that strategy would ever work. I think you would have the remaining customers you have be absolutely grabbing pitchforks and knives. But what Xbox is planning to do that's very similar to what you said is that there's rumors saying that they're going to start their next generation in 2026. Now, I don't think it's going to be the most powerful console in the world. Right? What do you think? I mean, pull a
Nintendo.
Right. They're just going to wrap this one up and start in 2026. But I don't think they can come out and say we got the most powerful console and this and that. I think they're going to do more of that hybrid or some sort of a PC/console type of thing. I don't think they're going to do what they did the last two generations.
Well, the powerful console thing doesn't work anyway.
Right.
They've had the most powerful console for they've had the most powerful console for the last 7 years, but like Microsoft, they're so busy worrying about 15 years from now, right? They don't understand that, okay, you can have a powerful console or the world's most powerful console, but if you're not selling those consoles, developers aren't going to care. They're not going to really bother with trying to really optimize anything. It's rare for that to happen. I mean, look at the Xbox One X, maybe one of the most underrated consoles ever. It was a great console, but hardly any developer really took advantage of it. I will say Rockstar did, right? When Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, native 4K on that thing was the best place to play it.
That's right.
And, but that's because Rockstar's Rockstar, right? Not every developer does that, because you can look at some stuff like Assassin's Creed. That could have done native 4K on the One X, but they had the same resolution on PS4 Pro. Mm-hmm. Most developers are like, hey, we're going to keep things pretty equal on, both the platforms. And the same thing with the Xbox Series X. It's like, the way that thing looks, from the outset, that thing, every game should run better on Xbox, but they don't, because developers are porting down or porting up. It's like, hey, they're going to make their games on PlayStation and then put it on Xbox, right? And that's what we see. There is no like lead platform, like how they use like the 360. Why?
Because Xbox themselves doesn't push the envelope to make developers feel like they have to.
Exactly. Look at right. They go 60 is going to be the standard. Redfall released at 30. Starfield released at 30. Avowed's going to release at 30.
Yeah.
Like every game, right? And this is another thing, right? Like this is one thing that I think it's almost incredible how we could see Xbox gave up on the console so long ago. Because take, for example, PlayStation 5, right? Xbox had VRR first, right? And all that stuff. All those great features first, straight out launch. It was PlayStation that had to catch up with a firmware update, right? But as soon as PlayStation got VR, which was like a year and a half later, they balled out. They said, hey, it's not just VR, so that way we could smooth out whatever. We're going to combine this with high frame rate, and we're going to give you more options for performance mode. Right. Now you could play unlocked. Look, Spider-Man at 60 frames and all this stuff. And everybody's like, holy shit. Microsoft's like, yeah, we're still not doing that. Like, what? Do something.
Whatever happens to
Velocity insane. Well, it's insane. Yeah, you just got to get to the conversation on the way that they operate. It's like whenever when I looked at like most powerful console, it's not that they say it. It's just the fact that they don't live up to it themselves. Like, everybody says they have the most powerful something. When you go watch NVIDIA talk about their graph, they always talk about which one is the most powerful one, and everybody goes and buys it because they know it's the most powerful one. The reason that Xbox, like I said, they just haven't done it themselves, living up to the expectations of what they need to do and putting their games out to make other developers feel like, man, we cannot skip out. Because guess what? PlayStation forces third party to do that. They don't go out and say you have to do this. They do it by making games like The Last of Us and Spider-Man and Horizon Forbidden West. And when you see those games in God of War and you look at them, you're like, yo, there's one thing you can't say is these games don't look good and they don't play good. So when you see, so that puts like other developers.
Man, it's
under
like
pressure.
Xbox. Listening to you speak,
You know-
Forte, it's like Xbox's failure has made Xbox fanboys level up because you're speaking.
Also, you have to point out that like
first of all, I always talk like this. It didn't take Xbox to do it.
also Sony, they're usually they're worried about making their games perform best on their hardware. You know, they're not worried about the other stuff. Like they'll go, okay, we got a port studio. If they can do it, then good. You know, whatever later. Microsoft is like, okay, well, we got to worry about a million different configurations.
Yep.
And, you know, it's kind of crazy to me that actually, you know, it's kind of crazy that stuff like that Jedi game is getting ported to Xbox One and PS4 in 2024. Like that's still happening, or Call of Duty and Madden and stuff.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, it's like, it's so crazy to me that that's happening. And it's like, so, you know, I do think like the S could be potentially holding things back, but so's that, right? I mean, these, like when you look at it, like both Sony and Microsoft have a good amount of players. I wouldn't say majority, but a good amount of players still on the old hardware. And the reason is because we have these live service games that are still getting updated, right? So if you're somebody who just like to play Fortnite and Call of Duty and Madden or FIFA or Roblox or, you know, Apex Legends, all that stuff, Minecraft, still updated regularly on PS4 and Xbox One. And, you know, there's no need to upgrade to anything. So, you know, again, that's like starkly different than what we've had in previous generations where, you know, almost right away, you know, there's reasons to upgrade and stuff like that. So that's, you know,
I don't know, mate.
they're going to have to get over that.
Trajectory wise, we're slightly ahead of the PS4 era where, you know, we're only halfway through the gen, and so we can't expect the same amount of PS4s that sold in 7 years for the PS5 to sell in 4 years or 3.5 years. Like,
I don't expect that, but they did fall behind in the US, I believe, by like a million or 2 million units. But I will point out, I will keep it fair and say the PS4 Pro launched in year 3. The PS5 Pro is launching in year 4, so there's a difference there. You know, they had that boost of that influx of the hardcore,
and also GTA released early in the, you know, with the remaster for PS4.
Yeah, with the first person mode and all that stuff.
There were boosts to kind of like incentivize sales, and so kind of PS5's had that disadvantage, and yet they're still doing remarkably well considering, and also the lack of chips as well, like the chipset shortage, you know, for like a year and a half. Like it was hard to get PS5s even on shelves. You know, it's kind of, when you consider it all in all, I think, you know, it's pretty. There has been it has been doing pretty damn well. But it does amaze me that, you know, does anybody remember Velocity architecture? Like all these buzzwords, and I feel like, you know, all of these grandiose things were promised, like you mentioned, 4K, 60 FPS, you know, the future of gaming. But then it was like, here's a potato for the devs at the end of it. And devs were landed with this absolute bottleneck that's just frustrating, and a burden and a bane in their side and a thorn in their flesh. And I'm kind of, I think this is I think maybe Mark Cerny has a plan, and this is pure conjecture. This is pure anecdotal. It's not one of these kind of, I'm saying this as facts, but Mark Cerny made the ardent effort to make the PS5 as easy for devs as possible. That was the genius behind it. It was like everything, we're trying to make it, instead of more CUs, there's Xbox boasting about, you know, 60 CUs or 52 CUs. PlayStation were boasting about having less. They were boasting about how simple it is for developers to program around the PS5's architecture. And I'm thinking, who's to say that the PS6 won't don a similar architecture?
Oh, I'm sure it will. I mean, that seems to be Cerny's MO, and that's what he started that with the PS4. The PS4 was extremely easy to develop for. I do have a few things here. Shout out to Royal Boyle. He went and did a little homework here. I don't know if you can actually see this, Forte, but and I know it says up to, but he sent me a snapshot. I put it in our CrossFire DMs on Twitter, and it says store credit up to 385 right now for a base PS5. That's a physical disc version. So I don't know what that would entail, Forte. How would we get up to 385 from 300? I don't think even Pro would do that. I don't know if that's with incentives, but shout out to Royal Boyle for that picture. Liquid Tada, he says, I agree with Forte. Real quick, I do want to talk about two other subjects here, but I do want to ask the great Death Singer here. Singer, what do you think about this? Magnum Gaming says, what if the Pro... This is going to get Singer all riled up so early in the morning over there. What if the Pro is to lure the PC gamer? Is that even possible?
Not gonna happen.
No.
Angry Welshman.
No, it's not gonna happen because if you already own a PS5, it's fine for just playing the exclusives. And if you want to upgrade, you will, but it's not going to attract new gamers. Because if you're going to tell someone, let's say someone's rocking a 4090, right? And they really don't care about PlayStation exclusives like that, they're going to look at that and go, that is completely obsolete. Who gives a fuck? And they're going to keep it pushing. And because of how, there will be some people who will buy the Pro. Some people will do it. They'll upgrade their PS5 to the PS5 Pro. And it might attract one or two, a couple of new people. But for the most part, they're just going to stay on PC because for the most part, they're going to be playing their games over there in 120 FPS, native 4K, all the bells and whistles.
What percentage of the PC market are going to be playing Death Stranding 2 2 years after its PS5 Pro release on a super rig that costs £3,000? Like 1% of the PC demographic. Like there is such a small demographic of these gamers. The thing that they're playing at 120 FPS is flipping Dota. Like they're not playing.
No, they're not. No, you clearly don't game on PC. Otherwise, you would know that's completely.
Hey, Singer.
No,
I love you.
No, that's a console mindset. But go on.
No, so I love you. Yeah, Mooch, I'm out of here because I got DPS.
Oh, so you got DPS Forte. Thank you.
You're actually right. The base one is the one that I was thinking of. Slims are $385 right now. So,
Oh shit.
$385 to trade a Slim, man. Well, do with that as you may, guys. Just remember that trade your stuff in when the prices are good, and you won't lose money in the end.
That's right. That's right. It's great advice from the great gaming Forte. Forte, have a great DPS show. Shout out to Slow-Mo who was in the chat earlier too.
Absolutely. I'll see y'all later.
All right, Forte. Thank you. Shout out to the great Crop Gamer. He had to leave too. I do want to say this though. Shout out to Sphinx. I think it's Sphinx 38. He says the PS4 Pro served to introduce 4K to console. Since no one has an 8K display, the PS5 Pro is going to be a better upgrade in terms of performance. That may be the case. The one thing I only heard somebody kind of touch on, it might have been P-Rock. He may have said it when he was regarding to the PS4 Pro. But I know that BG, you have PSVR 2. No one's talking about this, but I would assume that the PS5 Pro would even enhance our visuals and our performance for our PSVR 2. Do you think that... I haven't seen a lot of people discussing that because we don't really know that thing exists. We know more about it today than we did before. But is that a possibility? I mean, is that another reason to kind of upgrade?
Maybe a small reason for, like, as we know, an even smaller demographic of the VR gamers. It's going to be like a residual, incidental benefit that the few developers that are working on VR titles, they can use the extra power. But yeah, that's all I really see coming from it. The PSVR, the content is just going to keep coasting as it is now, mainly from the third-party developers who love making VR games.
I agree. I completely agree. I do think so. I was just shocked because I remember one of the big, strong selling points with PS4 Pro was that it'll make PSVR work a lot better, this and that. I think that same thing that BG's saying, but I think a lot of the emphasis is going to be now this merger where PSVR 2, it has come... listen, it's a bit, what do you want to say, complex setting up sometimes the controllers. I did get the adapter, tried it on the PC. It definitely works. I still use my PSVR 2 as intended with the PS5. It's just for me, it's an easier setup. Go ahead. I apologize. I couldn't see who was trying to get the mic.
Hey, Mooch, just real quick. I know we've already kind of passed the topic, but there are other people chiming in on Black Myth Wukong in this exclusive.
Okay.
Nick Ingus is a pretty reliable leaker. He's predicted quite a few things that have come to fruition as part of even the State of Play show. He says Black Myth Wukong not a paid PS5 exclusive. The only deal they had was with Tencent. which is one of their biggest investors, in order to launch the game on WoolleyGamer. And then you have Nick, Nick Schriepel, I think is how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
Also
special. I think he called himself special.
Special Nick.
Special Nick. Also confirming through multiple of his quote-unquote sources that Black Myth Wukong was not paid for by PlayStation. That there is an issue with the FPS.
Wow. Okay, there you go.
Multiple.
I mean, that's a good amount to tack on to the already few that were coming out and saying earlier that there wasn't. So,
Mooch.
Yes.
I have something to add. I just looked it up. Death Stranding has surpassed 16 million players across PS5, PS4, PC, and players gained through PlayStation Plus.
Destin would praise Game Pass for that.
And Game Pass, it's past 60 million. It is not this huge mega blockbuster seller. So when Death Stranding 2 comes along, it's not going to do the same thing.
16 million is a very, very good number, bro.
It is across PS4, PC, PS5, Game Pass, and PS Plus. Yeah, it's really good. But when you put it into context,
Singer, you the same old argument that at the end of the day, visual sells, and if they market a game that looks really, really good, it will sell consoles. And it's that simple. Whether it's God of War Ragnarok for the PS5, or if it's
here's the way I look at
for the PS5 Pro.
The way I always look at the way I always look at sales these days is because you and Singer, I'm not putting you on the hot seat, but you said we were talking about a PC game. Maybe it was you and Crap going back and forth last week or the week before, and you guys were talking about I think it was Avowed, and you said, Avowed will sell 3 million on PC. That's a massive hit. So if 3 million on PC is a massive hit, then 16 million across all of them, still doing very good. But I got to be honest with you.
Remember Resident Evil 4, Mooch? Resident Evil 4 remake? You know how many that sold across all platforms in its first year? 6 million. Right? So we'll leave it there.
Yeah, here's what I was going to say. I really leave the sales part of the conversation now to when the platform holder or the developer says that they've met or surpassed their expectations and met their sales goals. When they come out and say that, you know it's good. When they don't say anything, that's questionable. That's when you have to have a debate.
I have to correct it. I didn't say 60 million is bad. Everyone seems to be jumping on that. I'm saying 60 million.
But you're saying it's a drop. It's a drop in a bucket, right? That's your argument. But I'm like, well, you can make that argument for pretty much every game except Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. That's not the if that's the case, then exclusives wouldn't sell consoles. If your argument made any sense, then no great game advertised apart from Grand Theft Auto and these games that sell 50 million plus would shift the market and be market penetrative. But that's not the case. A good-looking, well-advertised game shifts consoles. It's just that simple. People will look at the viewership.
2 isn't going to shift as much as a GTA or any other game.
Obviously not. Nobody's saying that, bro. I'm saying it will be that. I'm not putting it. I'm putting it right where it belongs as one of the best looking video games anyone has ever seen, ever. Like it is an absolute spectacle to the eyes, and it is a showcase of the PS5 Pro.
Hold on, BG, what were you going to say? You were chiming in.
No, I was just gonna say really quick. I mean, I get what Death Singer's saying because I am a Death Stranding hater. Just to put my biases out there, I hate the game. But I don't see it as this like necessarily huge, great seller either. Especially when you consider all the fanfare and all the Kojima worshipping. When you put all that into context, a game like that, by who it's made for, when people worship, at his feet, lick the ground that he walks on. It warrants better sales than that in that amount of time on that many different platforms. But I am biased because I am a hater. But I think I don't think it's this huge. I don't think Death Stranding is this necessarily huge IP. That's like a.
Sorry for interrupting you, Death Singer, bro. Sorry for interrupting you, mate. You go for it, bro.
But yeah, as BG just said, it's pretty much BG summed up my point. I mean, yeah, it's like for what it is. Yes, Death Stranding 2 will look beautiful, but it's not it's not going to push as many units as say like let's say Wolverine comes out. That'll do more.
Again, anything with Marvel on it is going to move
Marvel, isn't it?
major numbers.
Insomniac, like that's their first party will push the sales more.
It's not just Death Stranding 2 though, right? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be other stuff that comes out in the next couple of years that's going to be much better on the Pro. Some people are going to be enticed by Death Stranding 2. Some people are going to get it for Monster Hunter. Some people are going to get it for GTA. It's not just Death Stranding 2.
No, facts. No, and I was never implying otherwise, but if it's a launch window title for the PS5 Pro, then I definitely think it will be a showcase piece, like the Order 1886 was for the PS4.
Yeah, they could definitely.
If they do announce this console next month, I definitely think there's going to be some sort of big visual showcase that they show off alongside it.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's Death Stranding 2, maybe it's something else, something new, who knows.
I think it'll be more than Death Stranding 2, but Death Stranding 2 might be a big part of that because BG has been very vocal. Anybody that follows BG knows he's not a Death Stranding guy, but here's the thing, I got to tell you. Death Stranding is eye candy, right? It looks very good. The old one looks amazing. Even on older hardware, it looks amazing. So what they're going to be able to do with the Pro is really going to be, a head jerker. It's going to make people turn to look, and that's really, really what it's going to be able to do. Now, does that transpire into sales of a $600 console or more? That's debatable, but it does bring attention to the console, and I think that's very, very important. Kami, I know that we are hitting 9 o'clock here, but I do want to discuss something. I did promise Kami, because me and him talked earlier in the week, and I said, Kami, give me something you want to talk about. You reviewed and played Star Wars Outlaws, and the reason I want to discuss this real quick is not only do I want to hear your review, but I do have to say, the one thing that has bothered me, and I was going to put other games down to play Star Wars Outlaws, and I didn't, because of all the problems it was having. Survivor was having a ton of problems as well when that game launched, Jedi Survivor. And I own it on PC. I still haven't booted it up because now other games get in the way. But what was your take overall on Star Wars Outlaws? I don't want to ruin yours. That was my take. I'm still on hold on that game. Yeah. But what's your take? You played the game in its entirety, I believe. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really didn't like the game very much. Compared to Jedi Survivor, I would say the performance was better, but Outlaws is a lot buggier. Now, it's not like this, complete buggy mess like some people are making it out to be, but there's definitely a lot of issues with like AI, pathing, stuff like that. So that was a big problem. And then aside from that, just the gameplay was not very interesting to me. It's like the most bare bones stealth system that I've ever seen from like the 360 generation.
Ooh.
And then on top of that, there's like these forced stealth missions. And if it was just once or twice, it would be fine. But it feels like half the missions are forced stealth, where if you get caught, you have to go back to the last checkpoint. So that was very frustrating. The one thing I will say is that they really nailed the feeling of Star Wars. I'm not the biggest Star Wars person, but for Star Wars fans, I think that's one thing that they're really going to enjoy about it is just the immersiveness and feeling like you're in a Star Wars universe. But the game itself, I wasn't really feeling it.
What did you end up giving it for? What was your rating?
I think the Metacritic is about right. I would probably give it about a 7.
Okay.
Maybe without the bugs, 7.5, but I was literally forcing myself to play it, not going to lie.
Okay, I think I'm taking a page out of one of BG's reviews. BG, when you saw this, I mean, let's be honest, it's another Star Wars game with what you just heard, Kami. He played through it, and honestly, he's got a good heart. Honestly, if Kami's saying it's a 7, I think that's him actually even maybe throwing 0.5 in it to be kind. This is, a lot of people said that there was a lot of problems. Survivor had problems in the beginning. I think a lot of patches have come out, so I'm not telling the audience Survivor's bad now. If there was nothing else coming out and I wasn't playing Wukong right now and a few other games, I probably, and of course, we got the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 beta.
Survivor was a good game, though.
Survivor was, I didn't play it, but I think the end result, great game. BG, where are you on this? I mean, can we get a Star Wars game that comes out not broken once? I mean, can we get it, or is it too much to ask?
I mean, the thing with Ubisoft is Ubisoft functions more like an assembly line.
Yeah.
When they develop their games, it's just not a studio that actually cares about, the art side, and I think sometimes the art side in video games gets a little bit a little bit too exaggerated. I should say the quality control side. Ubisoft doesn't care about quality control.
Mhm.
It's they will sacrifice quality control just to make the game bigger. Just they care about the size that they can brag about their open world. I haven't played it. I will eventually, probably like at a sale when they release like 10 patches. I'm gonna assume it's a pretty big world in Outlaws.
It's huge. But kind of empty.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all. It's shallow, right? It's completely shallow. The way they develop their games, it's like they're Rockstar, except they don't care about the technical quality or the quality control of their games. Make things big for just because we can brag about it and say, oh, it's our most innovative and expansive open world. Those little buzzwords and keywords that get a few people excited, I guess. But yeah, they don't care about the quality, and that's why they've fallen as a publisher. Like 10, 12 years ago, Ubisoft was very different. They were not like this at all.
Yeah.
And now they're just an assembly line. They make games like machines, literally like AI.
Yes.
And that's how it is.
So BG, listen, what you just described is the same reason that I left Assassin's Creed a very, very long time ago. Do you think that they're going to fix this AI assembly line? I like the way you described that when it comes to Shadows. I mean, I'm kind of diverting here from the topic, but or is that going to be another game where they flex their muscles and they're like, there's 300 side quests? And you're like, I don't care. They're all redundant and boring. Like Valhalla put me into a coma.
I do think they care more about Assassin's Creed than, a licensed game that they got from, in the Star Wars universe, even though they should care very much. I mean, I think it's definitely a gift to be given that IP to work with. But I think even though they commit some of the same crimes with their own games that they own, they do care a little bit more about like an Assassin's Creed versus a Star Wars game. But you will see, I'm sure you will still see some more of that in Shadows, but I think they'll take a little better care.
I hope so. By the way, BG, you made a point earlier. I can't remember or you were saying the reason we were talking about the PS5 Pro, and you said the reason that you were interested, and you pulled the game out of a hat. You said, Final Fantasy 16, and you gave some of the specs of what it's running on the current PS5. I just want to say, shout out to the audience, by the way, but I just had a few people send me it in the DMs. It is official. Apparently, Sony shadow dropped. Final Fantasy 16 is available right now on PS Plus. I don't know if that's for the essentials or is it for everybody who has PS Plus?
I think it's this second and third.
It's premium as well, or premium only. Sorry,
it's premium only.
Gosh, we never get any games on that platform, man.
So wait a minute. So Final Fantasy 16 dropped on PlayStation Plus, and I'm looking here. I don't know, Kami. I guess I'll go with what you're saying. You're saying it's for only premium or for extra and premium.
It's weird. Some people are saying they can get it on extra, and some are saying they can't. I don't know what's going on.
I'm seeing both as well. I'm seeing extra and premium, and then I'm seeing only on premium. Guys, go check it out either way, but that is interesting. So, BG, the only reason I brought that up was because you pulled that game out of a hat to say that may be a reason for you or for others to maybe upgrade to a PS5 Pro. But that's interesting, right? Now that drops on PS Plus for a lot of different gamers that have that service. And then maybe they use that as one of the things that they bring up on stage when they talk about the Pro's capabilities. I don't think that would be a headliner, but I think it may be one more thing, or take a look at this, and it's also free for you to go home and play if you cater to our service. I thought that was quite interesting. Anybody else? I mean, Kami said it. I'll ask the panel. Anybody else play Star Wars Outlaws? Is anybody else annoyed by it, or did somebody love it?
Yeah, I played through it. I got an early code from Ubisoft, thanks to them, but I did not like it. I did the preview of it, and I thought, hey, maybe it's going to open up a little bit, which it does open up in terms of the world, but like he said, the missions are so just overly stealth based. I wish it was like Assassin's Creed, in terms of giving me the opportunity or the decision making to go in loud and shoot everyone in the face, or if I want to go silent. But it doesn't really operate like that. It doesn't really give you player freedom in order to do that. It's more linear in that nature of forcing you to go silent. And if you get caught, like he alluded to, it's back to the lab again. Back on 8 Mile. You got to go all the way back. And so I was a little bit disappointed in that. And the world, being a Star Wars fan, seeing Tatooine and some of these other locations, I thought that it was really good. The character models in some aspects were pretty good. I thought they did a decent job. Some faces I ran into, I was like, eugh. But, the ship, the other aspect they put in there, the ship kind of combat and transition, I wanted more of that. I wanted more kind of player. I didn't feel like I had control. And I felt like the game, the entire time being a Star Wars game, was trying to control it for me and force me to do these things. And in an open world, type game like that, I like to be able to make my own decisions and figure out ways of how to take down that target or how to infiltrate. Like, do I want to go in loud? Do I want to blow up all these different things? Do I want to go in silent? And I just didn't feel like they gave us the player, almost identity to be able to do that. I think what they did with the purchase, I didn't like, in terms of you pay 100 and whatever it was,
130.
100, yeah, outrageous amount for 3 days. I thought that was a little just kind of out there, just way too much.
And then you get your save deleted.
Yeah. And I couldn't get the platinum on it either yet. So I stopped playing because there's 2 bugs. I think they fixed the one, but you can't get a platinum on it yet because there is a specific trophy that will not pop. And I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there is a trophy on there that absolutely will not pop. And it's kind of in the middle of the game in some aspects. And so if you don't get it, it's almost unmissable. You got to go all the way back through and play the damn thing again. So I stopped playing, probably about 8 hours in, so that, because obviously I like to get the trophies.
Right.
And so I found that to be a little upsetting. I thought that they had an opportunity to really do something very cool with the Star Wars IP. I do feel like maybe Disney is forcing some of these games to get out faster than they're ready.
That may be possible.
I love Survivor. But it had some issues when it came out. But overall, it turned out to be a very good game. Fallen Order, even, I think was probably the most polished, in my opinion, out of the 3 so far upon its release. And it's almost like that was the hey, every, such and such date we want a Star Wars game out. And I think that has kind of done a disservice. I mean, we saw one of the main guys from Jedi Survivor, the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor, games, he left. And it seems like he may have left because of that, because of Disney kind of forcing that. And so I was pretty disappointed, man. I don't really like to give number scores. I'm more of, when I do reviews of who should buy and who should not, because I think there probably, for most games, there is a game there for someone to play. So I like to, in my reviews, give that. But if you're looking for a polished and an open experience for you to make the decisions as a player, this ain't it. I think you'll be highly disappointed.
Yeah, pick it up on sale.
Absolutely.
Go ahead,
For me,
Singer.
I have never been caught out by EA and Ubisoft, because shout out to Ubisoft Plus in EA Play Pro. Because if I'm going to play this game, I'll be paying the $15, which I do for every Ubisoft game now. I'm going to be doing the same thing for Shadows, because I don't trust them at all. I'll pay you $15. I'll play it for the month, beat it. If I can't beat it because it's a buggy-ass mess, then I'll just unsubscribe, and I'll wait a year, and predictably, the Steam summer sale and winter sales come around, and Ubisoft games 70% off, 60% off, and I'll just buy your game there. Or
add it to your backlog and never play it again.
Unfortunately, Outlaws landed at now, around this time, which is difficult because Space Marine 2 releases next week, which I'm highly looking forward to. and the Black Ops beta is this weekend, right? So I can't play it now. If I was going to play it, it'd be for the 15. But since all the problems came out, I'm like, cool, I'll wait. And when it gets quiet in the gaming space, I'll pay the 15 and play it, or get it on the Steam sale. Because there is no way you will ever catch me paying full price for any Ubisoft game or EA game.
Yeah.
Just play Days Gone, bro. It's the best Ubisoft game that Ubisoft didn't make.
That's an interesting take, Wooly. So I do got to ask this question, and I know that it's going to end up getting a few people riled up on the panel, but I do want to discuss it. And BG, you've been pretty vocal about it. I got a chance to game with Wooly, J-Dub, shout out to J-Dub, a few others in the channel, Link. Let's talk about Concord for a second here. And I know that, Singer salvatating about the PC thing, but this I don't want to just get into one topic like we did before the game came out. I want to talk about that as well. Singer, we will. But I also want to talk about this. PG, my question for you is this. This is a game that is coming out, and I'll give my opinion on it afterwards. But when we talk about, there's certain people in the media and this and that, and they're saying, how come we're not comparing it to some of the games that came out, like Redfall and things like that, on Xbox? This game is launching in a saturated genre, right? There's your Valorants, there's your Overwatch 2s, there's a few other games in this world. This game does lack a bit in the character development. I think that's probably even some of the people I know that love it say that the characters they like the characters. Maybe they would like new characters or more that they can relate to or want to actually buy a skin for, things like that. But BG, the one thing I got to say, the game, I prefer, the Call of Duties and the Twitch kind of shooters. I prefer a faster speed multiplayer myself, but I gotta say this game is fun and it works perfectly. The game has no bugs. It has amazing graphics if you want, lighting. I did some gameplay up there which didn't know justice. That was like the first 2 games I played. But like BG, I guess my question is, for a game to sit at 6970 and the amount of hate it's getting, typically when we do reviews or we discuss games and they sit that low, we say it's a buggy mess. There's people who have clips throughout the week that show odd faces or glitched out characters, or I got stuck in the wall, or the menu froze here, or the gun just kind of like floated, or my character was floating around. We're not seeing any of that. This game works very, very well for a game that just launched. Why the hate for Concord? Even if you can say, I don't like the game, that's fair. This isn't your genre. It's not my number one genre. I never played the hero shooter thing. But BG, I guess my question is, this is sitting at a 6970 rating, and the game's not broken. And it's not an ugly game as far as aesthetics, gameplay, or visuals on lighting, etc. Where's this hate coming from? I'm just genuinely curious.
Look, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I think it's just an extremely mediocre game that runs well.
Okay.
Look. I've been speaking up against the game because, to me, I know that much better can be done.
Okay.
Like way better can be done. I just don't think this is a good game. I have my reasons why I don't think it's a good game. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on that because I think it's irrelevant at this point because the game's dead. It's however anybody feels about the game, it's very clear that there is no audience for this game. It's at like there's more people watching this podcast than playing that game on Steam right now.
That's true.
I know. I know people like Tony and Kofi.
Yeah,
they've been playing it. They're racing against time essentially to get the platinum before nobody's playing the game. That's what they're literally doing right now. And they told me they're like they have crossplay on, and they're still waiting 7, 8, 9 minutes to get into a match with crossplay on PC, PS5. So there's no audience. The game is already dead at launch.
So
I just don't think
that's just not true. Like they're waiting 8 or 9 minutes probably for the pro matches, but as for the standard PvP and also conquest matches, capture the zone matches. They take not even 5 seconds typically to load into to matchmake.
So do you think so? Okay, so wait, so yeah, because when I played, it was fairly quick to get in, but it was last weekend. A lot happens in a week when a game is going through what this game's going through. I do want to say though, do you think that this game can it exist, BG? Because the only numbers people keep throwing out there are Steam numbers. Is there a way that this game can survive with only a PlayStation fan base?
Not this type of game. I think there are multiplayer games that absolutely could survive just off of a PlayStation fan base. I don't think it's this game. This is the style of game that really would appeal to the PC audience. Mm-hmm. This is not really the type of game that console gamers see and they rush to it, if you get what I'm saying. I'm not saying both don't play, but it's almost like take Diablo for a second. Like, for example, right? A game like Diablo. People play it on consoles. Mm-hmm. Or Age of Empires. People play it on consoles, but the difference is huge. It just appeals to a certain platform, and more people just play it there. So in this case, no, I don't think it's that situation where it could survive on PlayStation by itself. It's going to be announced free to play in a couple of months. Foam Stars just got that announcement. This game is going to get an announcement that's going to be free to play in a couple months, probably sometime, maybe early next year. I don't think the issue of this game being successful is the price. A lot of people point to the price. I don't think that's the issue at all. I think this game could have been free to play, and still nobody would have played it.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Yeah,
they had a completely open beta, right? That wasn't initially planned, right? They had a closed beta, then they opened it, said anybody can play. Anybody could play, and still nobody showed up. It was an open theme park, and nobody came in. Mm-hmm. They're just not interested. I just don't think it's a very appealing or fun game. I mean, listen, I played it. I just don't think it's good. It's not unique. There's a lot of things just wrong with it. When I analyze and talk about the PlayStation and their multiplayer efforts and initiative. It's not that PlayStation can't make good multiplayer games. It's not this or that most people say. They definitely can. It's just that with Concord is the wrong way of going about it. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a lot of things wrong with the game. When you compare it to something like, and of course this is different because Helldivers is not PvP, but Helldivers came out at $40, right? Helldivers, one of the big reasons why Helldivers is successful and a lot of these multiplayer games can reach success is, for one, it has good gameplay, and two, even if it didn't, it's one of those situations where if you wanted to play something like Helldivers, where the hell else are you going to go?
Right.
There's nothing else like it on the market.
Market is the biggest issue for Concord.
That it's a factor. Right, yeah. But it's also the fact that the game just isn't really very, very good, because I feel like what PlayStation needs to do, in my opinion, about it, bro. Okay, the shooting feels completely empty and soulless. I get when I get kills on it, it feels like it feels completely unsatisfying. It feels empty and shallow. The game is absolutely soulless. The weapons on each character's. It's just like it's boring, bro. I'm sorry. It's absolutely boring. There's just nothing special about it. There's nothing unique about it. There's nothing refreshing about this. And I'm not even saying it has to be refreshing, because a bunch of multiplayer games I like are not necessarily doing anything new or innovative. But this game is just not. It's just not good. I'm sorry. What I think PlayStation needs to do is not chase any trends, and use the IP you have and modernize it for how
today's
you translate it into how a game would play today.
Today's audience, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, the excuse has been, oh, they can't take that type of risk. That was a multiplayer game from 10 years ago. If you can take the risk on a game like Concord, you can take the risk on anything. So that excuse isn't flying anymore. I guarantee you, if they made a new Killzone, a new SOCOM, a new Resistance, I guarantee you, thousands of people would play it. Thousands. And you could, and I'm not saying like, and a lot of people have this like, think that to be a successful live service game, you have to have like Call of Duty or Fortnite numbers. If you have 10, 20, 30,000 people playing your game daily concurrently, that's great. That's fine. You could survive. There are live service developers that would have killed for those daily numbers. People think that you got to have like 600,000 people playing your live service game every day for it to be successful. That's the farthest from the truth. So they're just going about it the wrong way by chasing trends. They need to use what they have. They need to make games that somebody that is you're fulfilling a need in the market that somebody else isn't doing, and use your IP, because your IP offers something unique that people can relate to, that people know it's going to be different, and the market is very different from how it was 10, 12 years ago when you last used these IP. BG, things are different now, so you gotta try at least test one of those.
Let me ask you a question, BG. Of the examples you gave with Killzone and SOCOM, if those were to be remade and be decent, let's just say decent. Let's not give it too much credit. It's decent.
Yeah.
Is the PSN login for PC players? Do you feel a part of why this is so low? This was PC players saying we're not going to do it. Like, we're not doing this. Like, because like you said, they opened the arena up. They had a huge, what do you call it there? Festival, and nobody went. Like an open door ticket, free admission, and nobody was there on Steam. So is this the PC community saying, wait a minute, we told you, listen, Helldivers was kind of an anomaly. Like you said, I can't get that anywhere else. I can get this everywhere on PC. This is where I'm putting my foot down. So does that change anything, or no, you don't think that played a role? I think that may be another factor.
It's a factor for some on PC, right? I don't think that's a huge thing, because once again, bringing up Helldivers, when the PC community lost their minds over a 5-second login, the numbers for Helldivers stayed the same. Nothing changed. You had millions of people having an absolute like conniption online, but then you looked at the Helldivers 2 concurrent players.
Yeah, it was still
nothing
up there.
changed.
No,
Absolutely the same thing. The day of it happened, the week after it happened, the month after it happened, numbers were exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that was just a bunch of people being vocal for being vocal. The PC community got to buck up against anything that's like not their typical norm. So I don't think that's the big issue either. When it comes down to it, people want a good game. A good game cannot be refused, bro. I honestly believe that. $40, free to play, log in, it doesn't matter.
I don't think it was the
people
money at
will
all.
Go to a good game.
Yeah, I don't think it was the money either. Now, Wooly, I know you're a big fan of it. I play with you. I enjoyed the game because for me it was where I separate is I play so much Call of Duty and Warzone multiplayer, which I'm telling you, you guys don't believe me. Anyone that follows me on Xbox or follows me on PlayStation, you will see I will be on the Black Ops beta like all weekend long. Like, that's my go-to. So this for me was a bit refreshing because I never really played the hero genre game. I like it, but I do understand where if this is not your jam, Wooly, do you think that maybe at the end of the day, some of the things BG is saying here where Sony maybe should not follow trends and go use some of their critically acclaimed IP that they've got in a war chest somewhere, and maybe that was the attack? Because I don't think PC players are going to show up. We can clearly see that's over. And I don't know if this type of hero genre, especially when you have like Marvel's Rivals coming out in December now, is that going to be able to hold even the PS5 crowd, Wooly? What do you think?
I think everything BG said, what you mentioned there, is spot on. I couldn't agree more with regards to, the fact that mate, it's like 2:15 in the morning here. I'm struggling. My brain's it's slowly shutting down. What was he saying? He said about the
He's just
not
saying
chasing
It feels
trends.
like chasing trends.
chasing trends.
Yeah, and that they're sitting on an IP gold mine. Like, I've said that for years. I was very, very outspoken negatively about the beta of Concord.
Mm-hmm.
I was very vocal against it. Proper ripped into it. I tore it a new one. I wasn't a fan. But I gave the full game a shot. And it completely won me over, right? The gameplay, the playing with friends, like the gunplay, it gave me Unreal Tournament vibes in terms of the era. Not how the game feels to play, but in terms of it gave me that PS3 era.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the yellow piss filter era.
Yes.
And it gave me that warm, fuzzy feeling. And the gunplay is Destiny 2 quality. Like, it is so tight.
It is Destiny 2.
Absolute. It's a thing of beauty, bro. And as I got to experience more and more of the characters, and I explored, and I'm not a lore junkie at all. I don't really enjoy lore, but I kind of just had a little browse on the galaxy like map, or the lore map, and I was reading about some of the characters and the planets they came from. And like it really deepened my appreciation of the amount of effort gone into this game. The 12 maps, 16 characters. The characters have grown on me. I've been playing as Big Bertha, is what we call her. Like Mari, the big scrapper chip.
Yeah.
Like, man, like I am a beast with her. Like, I'm just I'm just hooked with playing with my friends. And like, there were so many curveballs in a match, but the instantaneous as well transition to another match once you've played a game and like you've won, and then the next thing you know, you're in another game. There's no half an hour flipping
the time
waiting around.
Yeah, I mean,
for a door to open.
We played for a good, I don't know how many hours. We played a good 2-3 hours maybe, and it was
bam.
Yeah, we didn't
just constantly in another game.
There was no break in between rounds. I didn't have a problem with that at all. Now, maybe the pro matches, I don't want to say other people are playing different forms or different modes that may cause other delays. But yeah, I hear you there. I think that at the end of the day, it'll be interesting. I don't know if PlayStation themselves or the PlayStation fan base is going to keep this thing above water.
I expect it to die. I don't expect.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make it the long run. I really don't.
I can only hope that by some miracle, like, they'll continue to support the game despite the terrible numbers, and people, you know, it pulls a Ghost Recon Breakpoint, it pulls a No Man's Sky, it pulls where people will notice the improvements and the changes and go back to it, and actually it picks up traction. You know, even if it goes free to play, you know, I won't be salty about that. I'll be like, well, buzzing, because maybe it'll give it a shot, and give it a chance. I mean, but I do think it's awfully. I do think BG maybe unwittingly kind of stated the main point here is that he said it's a perfect game for PC gamers. It's a game that PC gamers should want to play. Well, go figure, that's why it's doing so terribly, because PC gamers are playing all those types of games already, and they've got their niche, they've got their products, and like you said, Marvel Rivals is coming out soon. Like, it's like, it is a very saturated market on PC. There isn't that Valorant has only just released on PlayStation. Like that sink in. There isn't the market for that on console near as much as PC.
Wooly, the other thing that you said, though, that makes sense here is you said you had played it for a while. You said now, after, I know you have a lot of hours into it, you say the characters have grown on me. The one thing that needed to, and Death Singer, you do get your flowers here. Death Singer, one of the things you said initially was this game, needed to have characters that spoke to the gamers.
It did. Because
did it?
The thing is, when you look at it, when I first came on the podcast and spoke about it, I said it's a mediocre game, and I agree with BG's point. It's a mediocre game, but it's very polished, and I liken it to, because I played the open beta, so it's like, I'll give it a shot. I'm not going to judge too. Let's give it a shot. I played with the guys. We all grouped up. We won like 40 matches in a row. It was like, okay, I see what you're trying to do with this, but you try to compare it with, it's just not what the people want. And I think this is a fact. It was for 8 years it took for this game to come out, apparently. It's like you thought you had what they would want, but the problem is you have a game like Marvel Rivals, which is your typical free-to-play game, sure, but it's like everyone clamored to it. 50,000 people in the closed beta, and you're just heading into this market, and that's why I brought it up. It's not going to do much because it's not unique enough. There's nothing unique. Valorant is unique. CSGO is unique. Then you have all the other free-to-play games. Apex Legends has this whole Titanfall gameplay in a battle royale, which is absolutely fire. I love the fact they did that. Then you have Marvel Rivals, which, yeah, you could say is similar to Overwatch, and I would agree with you. But it's also doing some unique mechanics, like the team-up abilities, etc. Overwatch 2 is doing what it's doing, and they make a whole bunch of money, and people absolutely love these games, and they get locked in because they start buying the skins and whatnot. And then Concord comes out, and you're like, she asked me to pay 40. What am I working towards to unlock in the game? There isn't skins, there isn't stuff for people to work towards.
Yes, that was the one thing.
And then you position it as a hero shooter, but it's more of an arena shooter than a hero shooter, because a hero shooter, if you play them, big ultimate abilities, big maps, pushing the payload, capturing the zones, etc. Think Overwatch, stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, they all have this level to them, but this is like team deathmatch with some objectives. And it doesn't really feel like a hero shooter should feel. It feels like an arena shooter. And that's where I think they got it confused. Because if they said it's an arena shooter, and made it that way,
right,
then they would probably have more success, because arena shooters, there aren't that many. There's way more of the other genres.
And making a game for 8 years, I don't believe that guy. I think he's counting from idea. I think he's counting from the time
pre-production.
Yeah,
exactly, from the time it was an idea. I hate when developers do that. The time that you was just thinking about things, like the concept of the game, doesn't actually count towards development. Like when it's an idea.
25 years to make Starfield.
Right.
Exactly. The real development time was probably six, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Saying it's 8, like I hate when they do it. Like that guy's insane. But even if it was that time, like developing a game for that long is insane, because trends change very quickly in the gaming market, and hero shooters aren't looked at now the way they were looked at then. You announce a hero shooter now, they're like, oh, hero shooter. It's like you hear that word hero shooter, it's like, oh, great, another one. Okay, more. Great.
Right.
Like even before you even see it, oh, hero shooter. So that's why, like, you have to be able to predict what the market for your game is going to be like, not when you're making it, but when you're going to release it.
Right.
So
sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and the reason why Marvel Rivals is an exception is because when you have the Marvel IP, you have a cheat code for everything.
That's right.
You don't have to worry about character designs.
And Concord,
Stanley and all his people created the best character designs decades ago. You don't got to worry about powers. Stan Lee did that for you. You don't got to worry about nothing. Stan Lee already did it for you.
And you also don't have to worry about skins, because, like, shout out to the closed beta, they had the battle pass in there, and you could unlock an Iron Man skin that was from 1984, one of the Iron Man comic issues. Yeah. Like, they have the entire comic backlog.
The hardest work is already done for you. All the hard work is already done for you.
The skins. That's right. You have like 50 years worth of skins.
No, but the one thing you said though that is very important, and I think BG touched on it a second ago. This is important. It's a positive to say pay 40 and you get everything, but then what are you working for? Do you know what I mean? Like I mean, because the cosmetics that you get, people who don't know, the cosmetics that you get in the game are like different color gloves. Right, a different jacket, and they're not even that wild. They're
the skins are really bad. No, they're bad. They're just different colorways.
Yeah, they're just
the final skin though. The final skins are significantly.
Those are probably significantly, yes.
Yeah, the final skins, but the rest of the skins are just different colorways.
I gotta say, coming from the world of Warzone, and I just watched the COD Next that they had yesterday, which I enjoyed, but 3 hours was a bit much. That was a bit much. But I will say they're bringing back the classic prestige system again. And someone like me, like, I'll do that. I'll always reset everything. You don't lose your guns progression, but you have to you reset. You don't get those guns. You have to earn them again. But I want to get up to level 10 prestige again. And I like having those icons, and I like the battle pass. I know people might hear this and go, well, I don't. That's fine. But I'm going to play the game anyways, but then the game rewards you with things like you guys might have seen when I had some of my Warzone footage there. Different, what do you call it there? However you want to call them, fatalities or whatever. When you down a player, you get behind them, you hold in your R3 or
vanity,
right? Yeah, and it's just like those are things that I actually I love. It enthralls me to play another game. It's why I'll hit the token. You get these tokens for an extra 40% on the battle pass, as far as XP, just so you can kind of get through the 100% each season, because there's a new season every 50 days.
We are interesting creatures, aren't we? Mooch, that 5 years ago, everybody hated microtransactions in the free-to-play model, but now everybody wants that.
They want
actively.
They say they don't, though.
To the chase.
That's the part that's the part that bothers me, Willie. People say they don't like it, but they do. They do like it.
It's so fickle, man. It's crazy.
It was funny.
Crazy.
The people
hey, Mooch,
did
you pick out a rooftop for you while you're watching it?
What? What happened?
Did you pick out a rooftop for you while you were watching it? Did you pick out a favorite rooftop you're going to sit on?
This one's going over my head, fellas. I apologize.
He means in the maps, for example.
The maps, camping on the rooftops of Call of Duty.
Well, actually, you can't get on the rooftop on Skyline, because they showed no one getting on the rooftop on the Skyline map.
I do think just bringing out a point about Mitch was saying, I do think Concord's biggest fault, and to BG's point, because I do try to keep it real. I criticized God of War Ragnarok like Summit Rotten, and I was really disappointed with Spider-Man 2, for its terrible writing. So I am critical of games. I'm not some Sony pony who praises everything Sony puts out. But to BG's point, the biggest fault was the spending so much time on production value. Look at BattleBit. BattleBit did absolute insane numbers, and it took 3 guys to make. It was a mod from flipping not Minecraft, what do you call it, Roblox, a Roblox mod, and BattleBit came out on Steam, and it was literally it was touted better than Battlefield. And now look at Delta Force. You don't need the highest production values and the highest time to create the most realistic looking 3-minute cinematics to make a good game. And if you spent all your assets and time prior to release on those unnecessary things, you're going to release the game at a later date when the market's changed and the market shifted. So I do think, as much as I enjoy Concord, and as much as I've had some of the best multiplayer experience I've had in a long time with friends this last week, playing every night to the early hours of the morning, loving every minute of it, I do acknowledge that Sony did not read the room here, and that they did mess up. They screwed up royally, and also Firewalk. They've indulged. Firesprite. They've indulged Summit Rotten in this IP, and they've been in their own creative heads, and forgotten who they're making the game for. And I think that's the biggest problem. And unfortunately, let's address the elephant in the room. And no, I don't mean the big Mother Bertha, although she is an elephant in the room. I mean, let's address the fact that there's pronouns and, crazy diversity in this game. Unfortunately, people will only see 2 goofy pronouns and a fat chick, and they will naturally only see that when they look at this game, and then write the whole game off as woke trash. But I am very frustrated by the fact that I really do not like the super sensitive social justice warrior snowflakes that have existed for the last 10 years, and cancel culture and all that stuff. But now I'm finding that the anti-woke, and I used to have anti-woke in my bio, embarrassingly, but I find that those who fight against that now and push against that have become just as sensitive and irrational as the social justice warriors they argue against. I mean, look at the response to Assassin's Creed Shadows over Yasuki. Like that the outrage against a real historical figure because he's a black man in Japan, and people who aren't Japanese and aren't black are outraged and upset by it, calling it woke trash. Like, look, come on, guys. I do think we need to do better there. And I genuinely think there's quality here, but it's being written off because of superficial things. Yes, I was frustrated with the pronouns. Yes, I was frustrated with slightly frustrated with the fact that there's no real. I mean, I think Haymar's pretty cool, but that's about it. Like, there's no real attractive characters or anything like that to Death Singer's point. But once I got over that, because I'm a grown-ass man, I was able to really actually enjoy the game for what it does offer, what it does do well. And I think we could do that a bit more with games instead of just dishing everything off and writing everything off over one superficial thing. Do better.
So my understanding, Mooch, my understanding is that Helldivers 2, Concord, Marathon, and there's one more that's not announced yet, are being utilized by PlayStation to collect data. They have two, I think Tom Henderson kind of alluded to this in one of his articles a while back. They have two unannounced projects that are their kind of games as a service babies, if you will, that they're cultivating. They're being made by two separate studios. That's why on Helldivers 2, they were so persistent on wanting you to sign into PSN Network. They want to collect the data. I know I've talked about it a few times on here about the data collection. So I think that Concord, as bad of launch or reception, if you will, that it had, would Sony obviously like to see it do better? I mean, yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
But I think that they are utilizing what data they can get from these games in order to apply to these two that they're really cultivating, that are going to be the games as a service that they're working on and heavily invested into by two different studios. And so I know a couple of guys have already kind of talked about it. I think it's starting to make its way, through. I know because of the accessibility features stuff that I do with some of the studios. And that's my understanding, is that they want the data, and they're willing to on some of these games. Concord was pretty much almost done, and they pushed it out to see how it would do. From my understanding, the actual studio wanted it to be free to play, and PlayStation said no, we're gonna charge. And so I think that we will continue to see that collection of data with Marathon and Bungie. And they want to, there's a lot of things that they can collect. There's a lot of things on the back end that we don't think about that they can use for these other live service games that they're cultivating.
Let me ask a question real quick. And again, not to get into the actual hirings and firings, but BG, you were going to chime in using what Seeds just said. I want to hear what you had to say also about Concord, but do you think that this makes them put Marathon on the chopping block? Does Marathon, and that's not anything to do again with the firings. It's necessarily to do with the fact that I think it was Tom Henderson or somebody was like it's cooked, and what he means by that is it's just not doing well. So BG, does Sony? You heard what Seed says. Does this make Sony like start to reevaluate their live service games?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I wouldn't put Marathon. I wouldn't put it past being canceled. I think that's definitely possible with the way you see Bungie doing and Bungie heading.
Yep.
So I think it's entirely possible. This is just my theory and my prediction for the way live service games are going to start going. Like in the future, I think it's going to be this whole cyclical thing where I've been telling people I think the traditional multiplayer is going to start to come back, just combined with live service models.
I agree.
Pretty much what when you look at Space Marine 2 is doing. Space Marine 2 has all the traditional Well, some of them, because some of them are going to be in the they showed their roadmap, but it pretty much plays like a traditional multiplayer with the different modes, the different maps, just how it did it during the 360 PS3 era. But it's going to be a games as a service, and I think because of all these live games failing, I think it's going to be this cyclical thing where developers are going to go back to how things were done before because there is an audience for it. People think there's not an audience because other games are doing successful. That's just what has become popular. But I don't think the audience for the other thing has been abandoned. I don't think they just don't exist because Call of Duty shows that both exist. Hey, there's the people that love our battle royale, but there's also the people that just want to play some deathmatch. A lot of people that just want to play some deathmatch. And that audience has been completely just neglected and ignored. It's like, bro, if you make and the proof will be to see how Space Marine does. Space Marine is not the most popular IP, but it has a good fan base, and we'll see how it does and how future games also do. But I think that's where the industry is going to head back to. It's going to go like backwards in a way, but also forward. That's my theory on it.
I have to concur with that.
I agree
as
too.
Big as Marvel Rivals is, like you're gonna start seeing more of it because the days of I remember Quake 3 Arena on the PS2, right? Like you had all these old like shooters, and then you had the games of the service. But games of the service will just get tied into the games. That's why I'm looking forward to that. Like Space Marine 2 is. I've been waiting since the Xbox 360, right? So of course I'm going to be happy. It's been how many years? But this will be good, and this is the way I think people should do it: is traditional games with your multiplayer. Call of Duty does it fantastic. Because me personally, I'm not going to play Warzone. Black Ops 6, I'm only going to play zombies and the multiplayer. Yeah. Warzone doesn't interest me. So I'm one of those people. But I was also thinking, if they're trying to collect data, they should ask Riot Games, because any game they make just seems to any live service game just see like League of Legends, 145 million a month. You have Valorant. Who would have thought a MOBA studio would make an FPS 40 million monthly active players?
Yeah,
they made the CS:GO with abilities. That's what the game is. CS:GO with abilities, and whoosh, they're making a fighting game. Bet you that'll be a success. They made a trading card game. Success. They made a mobile tactics game. Success. Like, it doesn't matter what they do.
Deal with the devil or something, bro, because they're the Taylor Swift. They're the Taylor Swift of the gaming industry.
No, the thing is, it's just Riot Games understands what their market is, what the market wants. I think they have it. They have their finger on the pulse. They're like, what do people want, and what will people want? Because we have a constant cash cow, which is League of Legends. So they know what people need. It's like, that's why when they announced a fighting game, like, so you made an FPS, now you're making a fighting game. You're working on making an MMORPG, which I'm like, what the hell are you guys smoking over there to come up with these ideas? But they understand the market really, really well. So
I think we're in a really weird. I think BG kind of hit on it. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, man. But it seems like we're kind of in this like really weird time of multiplayer. You know, we went through the phase like, you know, we're all kind of same age group, but we went through the phase of starting out with like Halo or, you know, even Quake and some of those older games. And then, you know, the BRs came around. Everyone was obsessed with that. And then, you know, we got into some of these other games and just, I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like we're in this really weird kind of limbo with multiplayer right now. And you have these different companies just kind of trying to figure out like, what can we do to be successful? Like, obviously you roll out, you know, a hero shooter, not successful, you know, whatsoever. But then you see, you know, several years ago, it was all, you know, just off the charts. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, man, but it just seems like we're kind of in like an awkward period of like multiplayer. It's kind of how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I do think we're in an awkward spot right now. Everybody, I mean, that's one thing that's why the formula for Call of Duty, I think if I could sum up what everybody just said, look at what Call of Duty's offering. right? Now they have the history of 20 years of the game to actually say, well, we're going to go back and do this, and we're going to bring this classic back, and we're going to do zombies this way, the way that everybody likes. So they have a zombies, they have a horde mode type of thing. They have team deathmatch, domination, capture the flag. They have, headquarters, hard point. They have all of those modes. Then they have Warzone. Listen to what I'm saying here. We just went through the entire panel. Each panel member described one part of a multiplayer concept that they prefer more than the other. Call of Duty has all of that. They have all of that in one bundle. And that's it really is. That's why it is what it is. That's why I don't see it, anytime, never say never. We don't speak in absolutes here. But in all honesty,
that's why Mooch does nothing but play Call of Duty.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. Listen, there's a part of me that's just I like competitive play. Like, listen, okay, whether it's Wukong or it's a Souls game or anything, like I like those too. But I mean, the minute I have 3 or 4 of my friends saying, listen, we're all getting together and we're playing. We're playing Warzone. We're playing multiplayer. We're playing, even you guys. Wooly, you got a hold of me. You're like, dude, I'm getting on Concord. If you guys are going to play and play competitive, I've always been a sucker for that. I'll play that. So, like, that's one of the things that I absolutely adore about Call of Duty is it has the gambit. It has the entire gambit. Everything that, and listen, you guys know I love Warzone, but I will be seated this weekend playing those 8 maps nonstop, and I love it, yeah, exactly. I might see you on there. You will see me on there, Singer. Absolutely.
I think to succeed as a new multiplayer game these days, you got to either do something no one's ever seen before, or you got to do one thing really fucking well. And I think that's kind of where Concord has an issue, is that it doesn't really do either of those things. It's, we've seen arena shooters before. We've seen the hero shooter genre before. It's not doing anything new, and it's not really doing anything exceptional.
Right.
I appreciate that, because I also said that on this podcast. I said Concord feels like a mishmash of like a bunch of different genres smashed together. It's jack of all trades, master of none. It doesn't master anything. It just does everything, but it doesn't lean into one thing. If you wanted it to be a hero shooter, just go full hero shooter. If you want it to be an arena shooter, cut out the abilities like that and position it to be what it's supposed to be.
Isn't that what Lawbreakers was, and it died straight away?
Right. I feel like game modes are very important.
The thing is, it looked like a really good Unreal Tournament-esque arena shooter.
Yeah, but the thing about Lawbreakers, when people make that comparison, that I think is a little insulting to the Firewalk team, is Lawbreakers had a lot of technical issues, Yep. And this game does not have that. It has a lot of the other faults that we said. It doesn't stand out. Maybe the characters and the development of you say the attachment to gamers isn't there. Fine. The art direction with the characters, fine. But as far as the game itself and the modes, and when you have a team like we had, Wooly, dude, we had a good time. I'm not going to take that away. I'm not going to say I didn't. I had a great time. And will I continue to play Concord? It is
polished.
I will play. Yeah, Kami, it's polished, dude. Listen, that's the thing. That's my initial question to BG Kami, was that it's a quality produced game. And I'm shocked to see a game.
The thing is, Mooch, on Twitter, I've asked people to show me gameplay that shows it's a bad game. And no one can. All they do is call it woke trash. Like, literally,
that's
show me where the game's for.
You got to understand something. The majority of the public, though, doesn't live in the community that we write in. That's not what's stopping the game. I think what stops the game from its popularity leap through is more of what Singer said.
Well articulated by BG and by
Singer and BG nailed it. When they were saying this is it's just it does what everything else does. And then it does a little less than some of them, and the PC gamer already has 5 different versions of that to play. And I'll use Singer's words. They're free, right?
Yep.
So they have 5 versions of that, if not more, and those are free. And when you put all of that together, plus you bundle in, Wooly, what you said, that's where we are today. But also, as far as technically, it's sound. Go ahead, Singer.
I was just going to say, the cinematic things they said they were doing, and they want you to gravitate to the characters. The thing is, there's just nothing there really to gravitate to. Like, for example, you see, like, certain things, like, certain characters become fan favorites. So I like to take Overwatch, for example. Tracer, fan favorite, right? Mercy, fan favorite. May, fan favorite. Like, certain people will gravitate to certain characters, they will main them, and they will buy all the skins for them, and they love everything about them, and then Blizzard will release a cinematic trailer on YouTube, like 2 minutes long, giving you a backstory of the character, and you're like, oh, absolutely, you watch May's backstory, and it's like, wow, that's actually really sad. But you love the character, and there's something for you to grasp onto. Whether you like the visuals of the nice, tight clothes and stuff, whatever, people will gravitate to certain characters. And what is there to gravitate to characters-wise? It's like, you don't have...
That was Big Bertha's big warm embrace, bro. And and what's his face? The Hoover guy, the giant Hoover guy, flipping archive. His name's escapes me now. Oh, never mind. One off. And
the story was supposed to be...
He's like Baymax. He's like Baymax out of flipping that cartoon with that guy who likes big hugs. He's adorable.
Well,
the story was supposed to be a big selling point too, right?
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Concord.
Well, that's
it. It's not really,
but it's not. It's not. When they talked
about
when they
talked
about the vignettes and this and that. First of all, I thought the first showing where they had that, what I can't remember, was it a State of Play? And they showed them, and they were at that diner, that futuristic diner, and he had the hot sauce and this and that.
I think that was one of the biggest mistakes they made with this whole rollout.
That
PlayStation Showcase trailer.
Yeah, that may very well be.
It's not speaking to the fans of those games, because the fans of those games want the gameplay, and they're playing those games not for a story, for the gameplay.
Right.
And you fall in love with the characters that they're playing, and they like like I said last time I was on your show, Mooch, what Overwatch does well, they release a banger video on YouTube, not flipping as the selling product of the game.
And that was a big thing. And not just that, but let's also announce the obvious, right? The one thing that they did during that reveal at State of Play, it was eerily too similar to Guardians of the Galaxy. And we are already so from a movie standpoint, we got 1, 2, and 3, right? And then you had the game that came out, which, by the way, I thought if you did not play Guardians of the Galaxy that came out this generation, I recommend you go play. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. But I think we're kind of that humored out, right? Like, what's the Wooly, what's the character's name that has the bull charge, and then he has the spike at the end there?
Starchild. He literally even talks like Drax.
He's Drax, but he's like I don't know if Jez, shout out to Jez from Gaming Grindhouse. He's kind of like bootleg Drax, So it's
the Guardians of the Galaxy at home is what I like to call it.
So I think that you piece all these little things together, and I think that's why you don't have success here. But again, I do want to give Willie, like I said, I got to give credit. The game plays really well. If anybody ends up getting the game or plays the game, I don't think you would play it and go, I don't like, unless you don't like the hero shooter. It is a slower style game. It has got nowhere near the speed and twitchiness that a Call of Duty has. Do not think that. It does not. But then again, when you're in the hero shooter genre, most of those games don't have that kind of speed to it. It's a different...
They do. They actually do. Like, Marvel Rivals is once you get to the point, once combat.
Marvel Rivals and Overwatch, but Valorant is slow. Valorant's not fast.
But the thing is, Valorant is slow, but it's way more tactical than like a Concord, because you only have the one life. I play it a lot.
I thought Rogue Company.
I play it, bro. I love it. I love it on PlayStation. I play it, but man, it's like it. You're tactical on Concord if you play in that mode where you only have one life. Like, you're going to play tactically, but you play tactically anyway with your abilities. Like, the fact that there's no ultimate lends itself so well in Concord. Like, I'm so glad there isn't an ultimate, because it's literally not a big red button that saves you from losing, even if you've had a terrible game. Like, it's not... You have to actually use your abilities in a strategic, tactical way. If you have a weak primary, you nerf the enemy with your void ability to then be overpowered with your EP shooter. Like, there's the strategy there. You have to utilize the characters well and know them well. And I think that's what Concord does really well, that a lot of people don't realize. Or, anyway.
It does it well, but the thing is, Valorant does it better. CSGO does it better. That's the problem with Concord. It does these things, but other games do it better, and that's their only focus. Their only focus is, right, let me communicate. It's like, oh, someone's coming down the left side. Okay, cool. You go down the left side, right side. I'll carry the bomb. You go that way. Sniper, look straight down the line. Everyone knows what they're doing, and then you save your abilities. You're like, okay, I'm not going to buy a gun this round. I'm going to go pistol so I can save money for the next round. And then you do a sacrificial round. And then you come to the next round, you're like, okay, who's got their ultimates? And there's stuff like that. But it does it so well. But when you do Concord, sure, there's tactical to it. But
Valorant is very good, mate. I will agree.
Well, let me do this, guys. I do have to say it's we're going a little over the almost near the 3-hour mark here. So I do want to say, and I have kept Wooly. What is it now? It's got to be at least is it 3 o'clock?
3:15, yeah.
Quarter past 3 for both of these guys. And Kami, I appreciate Kami's over here in the States, so I don't have to apologize too much to Kami. But
I'm good.
He's Kami's like, no, I'm fine. But I want to say thanks to everybody, guys, honestly, because we did have a long show last week, and I did keep Singer here. Singer, I think last week we almost went 4 hours, which is like a CrossFire record outside of an actual show, like an Xbox or PlayStation showcase. So I do want to say thanks to everybody, guys. Outstanding show. A lot of people did have to leave a little bit early. I will shout them out and give them props for their Twitter handles, X handles, if you will, and their YouTube channels. But I want to say thanks to everybody that's here. I also want to give a shout out real quick. I do have a couple of super chats here. Magnum Gaming says, right now, the guys, you don't have to respond to this. We kind of discussed a lot of these. He says, right now, the PS5 is outperforming high-end PCs with PSVR 2, let alone the Pro. Don't get Singer all riled up, Magnum, please. He's just relaxing. Jimmy Yandel says, he says, have you seen what's special? that was a bit much right there, Singer. I think that was shout out to Magnum Gaming. Jimmy says what Detective Seeds already announced, but Jimmy, thank you for the super chat. He says, have you seen what Special Nick said about Wukong? He said IGN is wrong and Sony helped with their port, like with Callisto Protocol. That's the deal. So Jimmy just reassuring everybody. The Elemental Hero says, and I got to put this together. He wrote this with very little spaces between each word. Concord was tasked for gamers who want story, lore, immersion, sequels, truer makes. I don't know. I get remasters. Companies need to follow these types of games like they did before. Shout out to the Elemental Hero. Guys, I do want to say thank you to everybody with the super chats. It means the world to me. It really, really does. Shout out to Mash, who's here. Mash donated another 20 subs tonight, which was amazing. And then we had almost 10 new subscribers hitting that subscribe button. Guys, please hit the like button. We have 363 here after 3 hours. That means the world to me. BG, when we had about 500 people here, and BG goes, you got more people in this podcast listening than there is
brutal, bro.
Yeah, that was definitely a blow to Concord there. That was awesome. So shout out to BG. I will do some shout outs to the guys that had to leave earlier, but I do want to go in reverse order and say, Kami, I really appreciate you being here, buddy. I and I want to tell you, not only do I love having you on the show, Kami, but I really love what you do for the community. You do a lot of work for for me. I'll speak for myself, but I think a lot of other podcasters really appreciate what you do. You take a lot of information that's out there. Sometimes you're late breaking. You're the one putting things out there. But it's nice because I'm always able to go and I follow you. I snapshot. I'm like, oh, Kami's got some great news there. I take some notes. I put things down for my show. I'm sure other people do that for shows and their videos. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You do great work for all of us and you keep us informed.
Appreciate it, man.
It means the world to me, Kami. It really does. So I'll always be there for you. I know you're always there for me. So Kami, let people know where they can find you. And thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the invite. You guys can follow me on Twitter at okami13_. We will be covering all the PS5 Pro news coming out. Tokyo Game Show is also around the corner, so come head on over for all the latest coverage regarding that.
Absolutely, guys. Go over and see Kami, please. You guys should already be following him, but it's at Okami. It's OKAMI 13_. Go over and follow him, please, guys. You're doing yourself a service by doing that.
You
Kami,
can just look up Kami too.
that'll also work.
You'll find me.
That's true. That is true. Guys, follow what the man's instructions are. That'll work. The great WoolleyGamer, by the way. Wooly, listen, you wear your heart on your sleeve, buddy. You're always so passionate about gaming, and, that can't be overlooked. It just can't be. And just so anybody who may only listen to Wooly on my show or when he did his show or when he guests on other people's shows, I got to say, I game with him. I talk to him off podcasting. Wooly is the same person on podcast that he is off. He is very passionate. He talks games. And if you need help during games or you need to know about the lore of something that he loves, believe me, have a seat. He's going to tell you all about it. Wooly, great to have you here. Please give my best to Mrs. Wooly as well as the newborn baby you had, which is not new anymore, but nonetheless, congratulations to you and your family as always, Wooly. But thanks for being here tonight. Let people know where they can find you, brother.
I really appreciate it. By the way, just a quick shout out to Kami. I don't know if you know Creative Kofi, Kami, if you've heard of him.
Yeah, we follow each other.
Oh, that's good, man. I would really recommend you chat more with him. I can just tell, like, you two would be an absolute vibe. You two would really get on. He does localization for Japanese games in the UK, in the West, sorry. And he's just such a decent bloke and wholesome, and I think you would really get on with him.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of someone else then.
Yeah, he's called Creative Kofi. It's not the other Kofi. He's called Creative Kofi. He's a top guy. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of shout him out to you.
For sure, man. I'll look him up.
I genuinely think you two would get on. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. By the way, I'm sorry I spoke over sometimes. I got a little bit too passionate, and I'll definitely curb that for next time. But really, really appreciated the chat, guys, and the discourse, and as always, really enjoy the back and forth with Death Singer, and it was great hearing Broken Games tonight and his points and his takes, and he made some very good points.
Mm-hmm.
And really, really enjoyed it. And you can find me at WoolleyGamer YT for YouTube, on Twitter, and it's been a blast, Mooch. Thank you.
Wooly, as always, thank you, buddy. The great Death Singer who started saying, I hope I got my flowers. Singer, I hope we gave you enough credit tonight. I think you did outstanding on a couple of predictions. Always great.
I had Concord nailed down. I saw it a mile away. I saw it was in glowing signs on the billboard in the middle of London. The big. It was like.
How come you can't? Singer, if you're going to be this new gamer with a crystal ball, I'll take the 6 winning New York Lotto numbers that are happening next Wednesday. Please just DM me those numbers. Thank you.
I would do that, but I'd keep it for myself, and then I'll give you a cut.
Listen, I'm over here. I'll buy the ticket. We'll do a 50-50, okay?
Okay.
I think it's only fair. I'm mooching half of your number.
Okay.
Come on. That's not bad. But yeah, nonetheless, Singer, great to have you here as always. I love your gaming takes. I do love how you bring a PC portion to CrossFire, because really, the gaming medium has opened up, right? So it is console. PC is definitely a part of it. You go back 10 years ago, PC gamers, they weren't.
PC was part of it. Shout out to Windows 95.
Absolutely. Shout out to Windows 95 for sure. But I meant a lot of the podcasts that I did, they weren't there. Now PC's a big part of it. So I love that you're here, Singer. Let people know where they can find you. And as always, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, it was great time, great panel, tons of people, loads of different opinions. It was fantastic. BG came in with great points. I expected the Concord hate from him because, shout out to BG. He was going to do it as much as I've been doing it. But yeah, great discourse with everyone. It's always fun going back and forth. It's always a great time here. And my response to Magnum is PS5 Pro will destroy PC. The response I have to that is, your performance mode is 30 FPS frame gen to 60. I get 60 without frame gen. End of story. I get 60 plus.
Well, there it is.
What rig do you have again, bro? What rig do you have?
I have a 3080 Ti right now.
Yeah, I rest my case. That cost you a fortune, bro.
No, it didn't. It's because, see, this is what people also don't know. I'm going to put everyone on something. People think when you upgrade to GPU, you just upgrade to GPU and you just get rid of your old one. What you do is you sell your old one because there's a used GPU market. So what you do, you sell it, you cut the cost, and then you get like 400 or 500 back to buy your new graphics card. So you can
And
still
how much
trade
did
in
your
and
new
sell.
graphics card cost?
It was, what's the 3080 now? I got it recently. It's like, 400, 300? And
So
I sold my 1080 Ti for like 150, probably. I don't know, something around
it's
that.
similar or relative to how we kind of trade our consoles.
Trade in your consoles in, yeah, exactly.
It's similar. It is similar.
Yeah.
It is.
So
it's similar.
I love playing.
What
all these games.
What Woolley talks about is, you make a great point, Singer. But for anyone that's like entering the PC space and wants to jump into a 3080 or a 3090, that's when things can get a little bit more expensive, if you would. You know what I mean? But
and it's just a fact. It's just an absolute fact that consoles will always punch above their weight compared to PC. PCs are modular. They're taxed far more for what you get in return. There's far greater loss in depreciation, basically, in performance. That's why, if a game's optimized very well for PS5, it can push well above its typical 2070 teraflop spec and push to the performance level of a 3070 with like Death Stranding, for example. It's got like a 28 to, it's got a 36 to 60% delta over a 2070 Super in Death Stranding Director's Cut PS5. It's mad.
Yeah, it's you will find select games, but that will be the norm. That's the exception to the
No,
rule.
it's not the norm. Definitely not.
And it's like right now, because I was looking, I was gonna buy the I was going for the 4060 Ti. I was looking at it, and right now it's 350 quid, right, off Amazon. So like even the 40 series cards aren't really
the 40s
that
are dropping. The 40s are dropping now because we're nearing, whether it's this fall or early spring, the 50s.
Oh yeah, the
50s are around the corner.
And the best thing is, if you're looking to upgrade, what you do, people will sell their 4090s used, their 40 series cards. So what you do is when the 50 series comes out, they upgrade. You buy their pre-owned ones because pre-owned graphics cards are generally really, really good. Like there's not much wear and tear. The wear and tear is mainly on the CPU, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you could. So it's always worth upgrading, and it's always modular. So that's why I'm always so pro to it. Is because if you buy a 4090 now, for what would be, you would need a PS5, a PS5 Pro, and then when you get to the PS6, the 4090 would still be hanging with probably the PS6. So you are safe for like 8 years.
Oh, no,
So
I
you
agree. I built this PC that I have now, and this is 2018. I will probably be building another one. I'll do another upgrade when the 50 series. But that's 6 years I went between
so
a full upgrade. So, like, that's me. But remember, I'm also not a primary PC gamer, so that's not fair. I'm not saying that I'm the rule at all. I'm probably the exception. But no, great to have you as always. Shout out to Kami. Yep. Outstanding to have him as well. I do want to give a couple of shout outs, guys. We had a lot of people that were on the show that I would like to shout out because they had to leave early. Shout out to BRAP, guys. That's at BRAP_podcast. Of course, BRAP is Wednesday nights. He didn't do it this past week, but he's going to be going apparently live tomorrow. I don't remember the time. I saw the tweet, and shame on me. It's either 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. But guys, go over and follow BRAP. Shout out to Crap Gamer. Crap's been joining us week in and week out, and I love having Crap on the show. Crap's energy and podcasting skills are unmatched. It's at _Crap Gamer, and Crap will be back with us next week again. And shout out to the great Gaming Forte, who did an appearance before he went in podcast. So he came in podcast before he podcast. That's a professional, folks. So it's at gaming_Forte. I think that's there on the Detective Seeds. Detective Seeds also had to leave. That's at Detective Seeds. And guys, go over and check him out as well. I have it right here. I just want to make sure I say it right. It's at Detective Seeds, I believe, Platinum. Detective Seeds Platinum on YouTube. He's doing all platinum runs, and it is absolutely awesome, man. Go over and check out the great Detective Seeds. He's making a hell of an entrance for himself into the community, and he's blowing up at that. I believe that is everybody. I wanted to make sure I give everybody a shout. I want to say thanks to the entire chat out there. You guys are all amazing. Shout out to BG too. BG had to leave. You guys know it's at Broken Games HDR_, and he has Weapon Wheel Podcast Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern. Shout out to BG. Always great when BG comes on the show as well. He had to bounce a bit early, but he actually stayed almost the entire full 3 hours as well. 3-hour podcast, man. It's a lot of work, but we can do it. That's what we do here. We like to talk games, and we love having you guys being here with us. Please hit that like button on the way out. Hit the subscribe button on the way out. We will be back next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. As always, you'll see me online. I'll be going back and forth between PlayStation and Xbox this weekend as I play more and more Call of Duty, as well as a few other things. I'm trying to get a little further in Wukong as well. That being said, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks to this great panel, great chat. Hit the like button on the way out. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.